been watching a really stupid amount of videos explaining what the hell happened with Lunatics Unleashed. You know, I'm definitely gonna be super.
Hold on, okay.
What the fuck
When
is
you say
Lunatics
that,
Unleashed?
you gotta explain what Lunatics Unleashed is.
Oh no!
Oh, no.
I haven't heard that in a long time.
Are you talking about that Looney Tunes Dark
Yes, the
Edgelord
edgy
show?
Yes.
Looney Tunes.
Yes.
There was a
Yes.
dark.
Oh,
Looney
I've
Tunes
heard
show?
of that.
You didn't
before.
know it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes,
No.
it was made by the guys.
I didn't know about it either, but I saw like a video
So,
title
yeah,
recently.
I believe it was made by the same guys who made SWAT Cats: The Radical Squadron.
Wait, they made like a Looney Tunes that's like
Hold
SWAT
on,
Cats?
someone bring up the pictures.
Who are you? What up, bitch? I'm Bugs fucking Bunny, motherfucker! Like Bugs Bunny? Fuck no, bitch! That is fucking old and retarded! You wanna know what's up, Doc? My cock up your ass!
It did not go over well. Let's just say that. No
Was it
one
like
liked
Stone Protectors where they tried to make treasure trolls like extreme? Do you guys remember that? Do you remember
Well,
Stone
here's the,
Protectors?
it. Stone Protectors.
Stone Protector.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh, that's nothing like Stone Protectors.
Oh my god! Hold, wait. There's an even better key art image. Here you go. This was probably concept.
Yeah, that got released and no one was happy about it.
No one liked it.
It had
I
to
wonder
be
why.
the case that they like, because this show only ran for 2 seasons, and a lot of I commonly hear this stated by a lot of people online that it's just like, why did they greenlit 2 seasons? Why do all these TV company shows like do stuff for 2 seasons instead of stopping while they're ahead? And it's like, man, none of you guys who critique this shit apparently know what the fuck you're talking about. Because if you did know, you'd know that no TV company ever invests in a new IP without, at minimum, giving it 2 seasons. If
Furries
it
like
does-
this show, don't they?
nobody likes this
I
show.
think nobody. I think
No.
I'm
Even-
Are you sure there's not? I'm just looking at these characters.
Oh,
I
look,
guarantee you there's tons
I was gonna
gay
say,
furry
yeah.
porn.
I was gonna say, Dan, well, there's no question in my mind that there's porn of this, but that doesn't make
But
it
even in
something-
that regard, there's not that much.
Really?
Look,
Wow, that's the mark
look.
of a failed show.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
not
was
even
gonna say-
furries liked it.
Here,
Not
wait,
even fairies.
here's Stone Protectors. Now this is a man show.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
those were treasure
Yeah,
trolls.
when your show is so bad, even the sexual degenerates don't want to make porn of it. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, you failed.
True.
I'm
Not
looking at
even
the Wikipedia
sexual.
article for Lunatics Unleashed. It occurs in the year. Apparently, a meteor strikes Acmetropolis
Of course, yeah.
in the year 2772.
20. It takes place in the future.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, of course
What
it
is-
does.
What is this like? Bugs
Look.
Bunny's like
This is like
great
Batman Beyond,
great grandson or
except,
something?
yes, literally.
For
Whatever.
real?
Yes,
I kid
they
you
are.
not.
They are all descendants of the original Looney Tunes.
Why
These-
would they take the time to do like a descendant thing with it? They're fucking cartoons. They're Looney Tunes. Like, why would you be like, yes, the original Bugs Bunny?
It's like
Because,
Kids,
He's a
hey,
historical
kids.
figure of importance.
Did you know
The
the
whole
original
point-
Bugs Bunny had sex?
Right? Yeah.
It had children,
Almost
progeny.
as bad as
The whole
almost as
point
bad
of
as
this
finding out
show,
Palpatine's
in case
had
you're
sex.
like, you know, you're just like very confused and possibly
I am.
angry,
Possibly. I don't. More views.
More confused.
is because Warner Brothers, like Looney Tunes as an IP, was starting to lose popularity amongst like general audiences and stuff. So they kept trying to like reinvent it to reinvigorate the IP.
Well, are you telling
one-
me Space Jam didn't do the trick and endear the
No.
Looney Tunes to a generation?
Okay, that movie, despite everything to the contrary, was hugely popular.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
that
well,
movie
Sure.
did do
I mean,
very well.
Probably most of that had to do with Michael Jordan, the biggest athlete in the world.
Well,
starring in
that's
it.
the thing, is that like
I
it
believe
did
I
well, but
can
like it
fly.
didn't like
And that
it
song
didn't
was
like
a banger.
invigorate people to go watch the Looney Tunes. Another, and this might be a sad thing to hear come out of my mouth, but
Uh-huh.
another failed project that tried to do this before Lunatics was Tiny Toons.
There was an
Oh.
extreme dark Tiny Toons.
No, I'm talking about the
Oh.
actual Tiny Toons was an attempt.
I
try
like
to
Tiny
reinvigorate-
Toons with the
Tiny-
baby, like with the baby, like the baby Looney Tunes. Those were cute. I really like those.
They're not babies. They're in like high school, aren't they? Or,
No,
like,
no,
middle
there's
school?
baby,
Yeah.
there's baby
Thinking of-
Looney Tunes,
yeah.
and then there's Tiny Toons. Those are two different shows.
Oh, I like the baby one.
Is there more porn of Tiny Toons?
Probably. I don't know.
It's a more popular show, though.
Talk about
That's
the
a
dick-
that's
Well,
a hit.
here's the
That's a
thing.
bona fide hit.
It's not that Tiny Toons wasn't popular. It was. I mean, it was fucking made by Steven Spielberg, but
Uh-huh.
it was one of those shows where, like, the show kind of stole the spotlight from the IP where it was originally based off of. So people liked Tiny Toons. They didn't really care about the Looney Tunes.
I always like Looney Tunes. I grew up with Looney
Looney
Tunes. I
Tunes
like
is
Looney
great.
Tunes. Looney
Yeah.
Tunes is fine.
and there's a great what's the new Looney Tunes show that's pretty good. People
The
like.
sitcom
There's a new
one?
Looney. Oh, how
There's
am
a
I out of the
sitcom-
loop on
there's
all
a
this
sitcom,
Looney Tunes?
Bugs and Daffy as roommates,
Yeah, like
Yeah,
the
that's
sitcom
fun.
one.
and it's
That
pretty
one's
good.
just
Roommates?
a reboot. Yeah.
Or do they like have like an apartment together?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Are
And
they
there's,
gay?
like-
It's like
They're not
No,
gay,
they're
not
but
gay together?
there's plenty of like humor and kind of.
Daffy, what you just described is a date. I'm not going on a date with you. Oh, you're right. I didn't think of it that way.
I mean,
Yeah,
Daffy is
yeah,
totally
little.
gay.
Hey, Porky. Want to go on a romantic date Friday night?
like
Okay.
it's more like Seinfeld.
They
It's
both
kinda
have
like Seinfeld,
crazy girlfriends. Well, the joke is Bugs Bunny is being pursued by a Lola Bunny, and she's a BPD girlfriend.
Oh, for real?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. For real.
It's
Yeah.
pretty
It's
funny.
okay. You know what? Maybe this show does speak to Gen Z. Is it off the air? Did the show like happen like 10 years ago?
It aired back in like 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
All
about.
right. I'm way out of loop on Looney Tunes, like modern Looney
Yeah, and
Tunes.
Daffy is like super gay, and the only reason he doesn't go to work is because he like invented the automatic potato peeler or something.
He's a neat. He just stays at home.
Why did they choose the? Well, I guess because it's a recognizable IP. But why the Looney Tunes for this medium?
Because
This
it was
story.
Great question.
because it was dying.
Yeah. I guess you got to do
Like,
something.
how do we
with
get
it.
the kids back in?
Yeah, that's literally what it was. Is that like Lunatics Unleashed was made because they wanted to get people to keep they wanted to keep Looney Tunes relevant.
What they didn't
And
realize was all it would take is like millennial humor.
A little bit.
Is it a lot of like? Well, that just happened. Do they do that
No,
kind of
no.
humor?
No,
No,
I haven't seen enough of it
it's-
to say. It's a lot of like situational.
Did you ever
wonderful.
watch?
They're going on
I was
dates. They're getting in shenanigans. They're trying to get a job.
Like
yes,
a
the
like a
new
like a
one.
situational comedy.
Yeah, like that.
There must be a way to shorten that, make it more
Yeah.
punchy.
I don't know.
Alas.
That would be great if the sitcoms made a comeback. I would love if the
We should
sitcoms
have
made a
like
comeback. I love sitcoms.
Seinfeld, but with Looney Tunes.
Fuck that! I want Married with Children back. I want Looney Tunes, but Married with Children. That's what I fucking want.
Well,
No,
anyway, this
the
is the
intro-
90s cartoon show, by the way. Welcome,
Yeah.
everybody.
Are we recording?
We just-
I hope
Yeah.
we're
Where we
not.
just talk about 90s cartoons for several hours.
Yeah.
I can
Okay. Let's
settle
go
in.
through the intricacies
Very
of biker
cool.
mice from Mars.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've definitely been recording. Like, this is gold.
You've been recording this whole thing.
Well, Ray, you want to set us up for our video today?
All right. So,
Or wait, Cobb, did you want to do a bit before that?
Nah.
Are we gonna do another bit about the name?
I can
Are we
do
gonna
a
anything
bit.
like that.
It's
I can
not
do
a
a bit.
bit. Shut up.
We still want to know. The readers
Alright.
want to
I've
know.
given
if
up
you're
on it.
doing
I think it's
What?
just. I think
It's
it
always
doesn't
going to
matter.
be three homos and a pussy.
I think it
It's never
is, and
changed.
I think it doesn't matter too much because
Yeah. We've resigned ourselves to 3H&aP.
three.
All right, Ray, set us up.
all right. So I'm gonna be as quick as I can be with this.
Many unbearable hours later.
So I found this YouTuber by doing what any sane individual does and going to the internet to try to get confirmation bias for a series that he likes. At the time, it was Pikmin, because I really like the Pikmin series. And I found this video, or I found a video from him, I'm sorry, that was talking about, like, in defense of Pikmin 2. where it was a response video to another YouTuber's video that was very bad and very factually wrong about a lot of things. And then
Factually wrong
his
about
video-
Pikmin. God damn it!
Look,
There's kind of-
I wouldn't be here if this did go somewhere stupid, so just bear with me. Alright, so I liked his video. He was clearly knew a lot about the game, clearly really liked it, clearly, was knowledgeable about the subject matter. I was like, okay, cool. And then I got recommended another video by him, and it was more Pikmin. And I was like, yeah, okay. And he just talked about all the game. Also a good video. Then I got a third video recommended from him, and it was not good. It was really bad. And it was 3 hours.
Whoa.
And I stopped after 6 minutes because all it was a video titled Lily Orchard is wrong about Steven Universe. And that 6-minute intro that this person had in that video, they used it to basically complain about Lily Orchard committed friendly fire against fellow lefties.
Who the
With
fuck
this
is
group.
Lily Orchard?
Oh, should we do some lore diving into Lily Orchard?
You know what, you do that, Cap.
I know
don't
a little
that
bit
much
about Lily
it.
Orchard. So Lily Orchard is a YouTuber, a trans YouTuber specifically, who has an interesting history of they do video essays of typical leftist media interpretation sort.
Everybody is gay and everybody is trans.
everybody's
so
gay,
I
everybody's
used to
trans,
be a patron
everybody's
of her.
everybody's something
And-
something communism good, capitalism bad. That kind of run of the mill. It
and you
kind of
have to
came
call it
out at some point that Lily had been writing. I want to characterize it as rape themed fan fiction.
Ooh.
Hey,
As you
So about children.
fan fiction about who?
About children specifically. So,
Oh,
wait,
God.
like real children or like
no, like fictional children being raped.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
That's
so
gonna be-
we're
that's a bit
at
much.
about
So it's a little.
That's a
That
bit-
goes
as the
that goes
Gen
a
Z
little
would
bit
say.
beyond the casual rape kink, I guess.
As
Yeah.
the Gen Z would say, that's a bit yikesy.
A little
right?
yikesy. People
That's
also
problematic.
found a little less yikesy but weird is their fetish for having sex with Pokemon. So if you look up Lily
Hey,
mean,
some of them
Orchard's-
Pokemon, they're
That's
they're
just
well,
standard
you
furry affair.
know.
some of them Pokemon.
Did
are
you know
earning it,
that
I'm
in
just
terms
saying.
of male-female compatibility,
Okay,
Vaporeon...
listen.
Bad.
Ray can probably guess which Pokemon that she was drawing.
Trubbish.
Ralts.
Ralts is close. You gotta upgrade
Okay,
it
so
a
yeah,
Is it
of
a-
course,
oh,
of course, it was
Gardevoir.
Gardevoir.
Gardevoir, yeah.
Oh.
And in fact, you can find to this date, and I found her comics about it. There's a web comic about a Gardevoir dating her trainer.
Oh.
I mean, to
It's
be
made
fair,
in
Gardevoir is
Orchard.
just like a lady. Like, that's basically not even a Pokemon.
Just
True.
like Jinx.
Just like Jinx. But no one ever wants to have sex with
But what
Jinx. I think that there's some racism there.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, I think it may be.
Well,
Well,
Jinx
you
is
know,
purple, right?
Well, I mean, to be fair, no one wants to fuck Mr. Mime either, and they're both
Oh.
pretty
Well,
similar
except
in looks.
Ash's mom is totally
Yeah,
fine.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ash's mom is totally into Mr. Mime.
Definitely.
It's
She
Ash's
likes
new
that hip
dad,
now.
basically.
Yeah, you don't see a father or another kind of man in that house.
We're still on a tangent.
We are still on a
There's reason
tangent.
it's
The
called
point
Professor
is,
Oak.
Lily Orchard, as of late, has fallen out of favor among the commentary YouTube community, primarily because of this fetish stuff coming out. So if you look up Lily Orchard on YouTube, you will find a whole bunch of people just kind of digging up stuff that she's posted, decrying her, talking about things that she said. And that's really Lily Orchard's story. I just remember Lily Orchard from trying to watch their Steven Universe video, but there's just a big sense of dissonance when you watch a YouTuber with a very feminine anime PNG avatar and their voice sounds like a 40-year-old dude. It's strange. It's just weird. It's off-putting, but that's
I
what
will
they had to
say-
work with.
Because I am not a transphobe, unlike Cav.
Ooh,
I
not
watched
a
all of Lily Orchard's video, and I will agree that it is not good. But I would not say it's not good because it's friendly fire against a trans created show or whatever. I don't even think actually Steven Universe is like a trans allegory show. It's mostly just a it's mostly just like
I mean, it was made by a lesbian. It's more like a
What the
general
hell isn't these days?
lesbian. It's just like a
Yeah,
general
but that just makes
queer
it,
lesbian
like-
show.
I was gonna say it just really makes it more of like just a like an LGBT show. Yeah,
if you
a gay
think
show.
about it, lesbians are like the Jews of the animated.
That's true. Yeah,
shows.
they got their fingers in all the pies.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Every
literally
animated
and
show you go
figuratively.
to, it's got some blue-haired lesbian. I'm just saying.
By the way, I like that Ray threw up in his mouth a little bit when he said he wasn't a transphobe.
Yeah, I was gonna say he couldn't even say that with a straight face.
Shut up!
He's
I
like
was
that lady in
actually
Knives Out that
choking
can't
on
lie without
bugles.
puking.
His
on
body
bugles.
rejected it. Okay.
The bugles reminded him of a trans woman's penis. He just was like,
All penises are beautiful.
But
it's true.
so
Unless they're attached to a woman.
No,
No,
they're right.
then they're Fuda.
Except for that one Smash player's penis. That one's not pretty.
Wait, which one?
The one that can't have sex.
All of them?
Because he's in jail or what?
No, he had a botched circumcision.
Oh,
And he used that to
Yeah.
prove that he didn't have sex with a minor.
oh, hey man.
Well-
that was, that's the most powerful evidence in the world.
I suppose
after that,
you
everyone
could
just
still, you could
went
still
quiet.
sexually abuse a minor with a botched penis, but okay.
You know what's
Well,
funny? They
I
tried to
think-
do that in the Harvey Weinstein trial. Did you guys ever hear that before?
Yeah.
Yeah, they claim he was a transsexual.
No. Stop. No. Harvey Weinstein, there's something wrong with his balls. He doesn't have a ball sack. His balls are like in his thighs because his ball sack rotted away.
Oh, I
And
thought you were
they
gonna-
were trying to say in court, they're like, oh, well, one of the victims talked about fondling his balls. Well, if you can see at Exhibit A, my client doesn't have balls.
Oh no.
But
Checkmate, atheist.
but she clarified. She's like, well, I didn't say I fondled his balls. I said I touched his weird balls on his thighs.
I thought you were.
Sounds like
I thought
gold.
you were gonna mention the egg-shaped penis.
He probably does have an egg-shaped penis, I'm sure.
Probably
Like,
does.
what's,
They asked.
did they surgically implanted there because his scrotum had rotted due to disease? Or,
Yes.
Or
You got it. You nailed it. You figured it out.
See, gender affirming care is for cis people too.
Michael Jackson also
so-
showed his penis in court.
Nice.
We're not even into the video yet.
Yes.
True. Should we
And he
get
beat the rest.
Okay, so-
should we understand Steven Universe in order to watch this video?
To watch this video, no. All the class, for purposes of this watching, needs to know is I was watching this video because he went after ER, and I was like, oh boy, of course he did, because this is always going to end so well when I know you have an enormous bias like this. And of course, it was going after the John Money part of the ER video. So I was sitting there with my Wonka smile, being like, oh, this is absolutely going to be glorious.
I think
and-
I've seen the ER review of Steven Universe, and I feel like I remember the part where he just complained it was all women who made it. I feel like
I'm not-
in my bones.
I'm not gonna like defend ER's video in this. Like, I
There's
I
some
will
cringy-
admit to
there's
liking
some
it a
cringy
lot.
parts in there.
I will. I haven't seen ER's video, but I defend every single thing he says.
Oh, good.
I would
Feel
not
good.
do
Yeah.
that, Animal.
So,
I wouldn't.
If this is not about Steven
Why
Universe,
did you
can
do
I,
something
can I
bad?
still do my Steven Universe bit that I thought about?
What's the
No.
ER? What's in the ER video?
There's like there's how to put it. There's like an actual like 5-minute like unadulterated joke that doesn't feel like a joke. That's just blatant anti-Semitism.
Oh, nice.
But is there anything bad in the video that I should be worried about?
Hitler and a Hitler speech.
there is
Okay,
a
once again,
literal-
I'll repeat the question until you answer it. Is there anything bad in the video I need to worry about?
You know what? Go for it.
For you, no. No. It's all good.
But regardless. So I got to 6 minutes, and he said something in this video that I almost had a fucking brain aneurysm over. And I thought to myself, you know what I should do? I should stop here and see if Cav is willing to torture everybody else with this. So that's
All
why
right,
we're
and
here
we'll
today.
see how it is.
All right.
Luigi,
We're probably not even going to get to 6 minutes, but we'll try, damn it.
it's okay. Luigi, do you want to say anything about Steven Universe briefly, knowing that the video will not talk about Steven Universe?
Yes.
Emphasis on briefly.
We are the 3H&aP gang. We'll always talk away. And if you think we can't, we'll always find a way.
See, I remember.
That's why the viewers on this channel
And
believe
this is where
in Covered Animal, the rest, and me.
Luigi.
I'm so glad you did not name me in that.
I'm so
This,
glad
that was
we're
inspirational.
Uh-huh.
We came back for
I feel
this.
good. All right, is everyone in?
I am sorry, Absol. I handpicked this for you. Enjoy.
Back in the era between 2015 to 2018, there seemed to be a wave of videos criticizing Steven Universe.
And none of them were wrong.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good editorial.
All right, let's keep going.
I thoughtlessly watched and agreed with. I mean, I'd never seen Steven Universe, but, it looked kinda, and the people who liked it were apparently really cringe and annoying, so I sort of just passively enjoyed these videos, making fun of fans of the show. Fast forward a whole lot of years, and I actually watched the show, at behest of one of my close friends. Turns out, Steven Universe is actually pretty good, but also that some of the biggest hate videos on it at the time, not only...
Are Italians white?
I don't know what the KFC means.
Come on. No, okay, to be fair to him, that's on there. There's the question if you
Oh,
look.
it does say our Italians white. I thought Tenny was just throwing that out there. It's
No,
like, wait,
no,
shifting show topics.
So,
Not a
yeah, this
woman,
is the
but still not.
screenshot I remember from the... Just like, here are all the actors.
I'm
it's
pretty
all
sure based on
femwits.
ER's video that the Colonel Sanders bit has to do with the racial profiling of those people.
Some of them don't look
What race
black,
is
though.
associated with fried chicken?
I would not incriminate myself, Daniel. I plead the
White
fifth.
people? I mean, he's kind of white.
Everybody loves fried chicken. That's so lame that that's a racial stereotype. Who the fuck doesn't love fried chicken? It's an American dish.
I mean, Colonel...
By the
I
way,
hate
fun
fried
fact,
chicken.
I
Scottish dish,
actually
I guess, or
found
whatever.
out why the racist stereotype of black people liking watermelon exists. It's
We
because
don't need to go into
We don't need to talk.
it's because they sold watermelons a lot after the slaves got freed, because that was what also during when they were still slaves, because they were allowed to plant and sell them 1 day a week. So they got associated with black people, and
that sucks.
and
So
then
they got
propaganda
basically,
was used against them.
So you know that thing that happens when you a relative finds out you really I don't know, crows, for an example, and then all of a sudden you get gifts for the rest of your life that are crow related.
That is what happened.
So
to
that's
black
basically
people
what
and
happened to black
watermelons.
people with watermelon.
Yeah, if I couldn't this out
They're
right.
I don't even like it. Why? Come on, man! It's the only thing that can grow.
Kev, you're totally cutting this out right.
Maybe,
sure,
I don't know.
maybe.
biggest hate videos on it at the time, not only actively lie and manipulate things to a malicious and unjustifiable degree, but also actively spread historical and medical misinformation in the aims of spreading transphobia to their audience. Speaking more specifically, ER's pathetic tirade against the concept of gender, where he hurts himself in confusion. This segment of his video is not framed as a joke, but is actively attempting to discredit the idea of gender itself in order to frame Rebecca Sugar as a file. So for anyone who missed the train, or are just getting in late,
Wait, does he actually frame Rebecca Sugar as a pedophile in that video?
Pedophile
yeah.
Also,
Wait,
what
but
does
isn't she-
pedophilia
wait.
have to do with gender?
Hang on, Rebecca Sugar. Wait. That name's ringing a bell. It's coming back to me.
it's all
I think there's a reason I said Ed, Ed, and Eddie earlier, because didn't she
Yes.
draw Ed, Ed, and Eddie
Yes.
porn?
She drew
Yes, she did.
erotic, gay, Ed, and Eddie fan art.
That's not
Okay.
enough to be a pedophile, but it's weird.
It's
in the-
very,
It's in the
It's-
ballpark. It's weird.
It's in the
a little
ballpark,
bit
yeah.
more than your average female fangirl fare.
But
It's at the hot dog stand at the ballpark.
I think if I feel like of the things I've
The
heard
little hot dog
about Steven Universe, there's other elements that some people are kind of weirded out about. specifically about fusions and the way fusions
Well,
are
that was the
portrayed.
thing. I remind you, ER's video, as I recall, was called Steven Universe Rapeyverse. What do you think his chief complaint about the show was?
Not enough rape.
Not not nearly enough rape. Like, wow,
I'm not
this show's
trying to
kind of
offend
dry.
the
No, there's not enough. Ugh.
I got very strict
I mean, the
standards.
only Steven Universe like actual rape that happens is between like a villain and her slave, and it's portrayed as something that gives the slave PTSD for the rest of the show. So I don't really
remember
see what the
rape in
argument
like
is.
But is it-
Scooby Doo or like Teenage Mutant Ninja
Hold on, I have a
Turtles or
really
E-Man.
important question though. Is it hot?
Yeah.
Is it hot?
It's with women.
No,
so
it's
no.
basically it's this muscly WWE woman that
Mhm.
takes this
Oh, man.
dainty blue lady that controls water and then
Right.
tells her to fuse with her because she has to overpower the crystal gems.
Fuse this me.
Yeah.
And then she fused with her over a pinball machine, and it became,
Yeah.
squeal like a piggy. And then,
and
it
then
went
Gina
down
Davis
in
shot him with a
cinema history. I don't know enough about the show. All I know is the fusion stuff kind of gets confusing.
I have seen clips of that. It does seem a little
I think
sexual.
it's meant to be kind of
It's
sexual.
absolutely meant to be sexual.
But the confusing part is when it happens between people who you wouldn't expect any sexual chemistry.
Yeah. Like father and son.
Yeah, like father and son, for example.
Oh, what?
Yeah, but to be fair, it's not really about sex. It's more about a deep relationship between two people that binds their soul together.
Yeah, and that's
I've
also
heard
an
that before,
allegory for
Homo.
intimacy and having sex. So yes, it does represent relationships, but it also kind of overtly represents sex with some of these characters.
I mean,
son and the
some,
dad do
with
it?
some of them maybe, but like when Steven fuses with his father, Greg, like
Yeah, do they come?
the outcome may be like the fusion might be kind of sexualized, but like the actual fusing between them is not sexualized, nor is there any like awkwardness between them afterwards.
Do they do? Yeah, there's no awkwardness.
As far as you can know.
Do they just stand next to each other and then merge into each other, or what's their fusion like? Are they like jumping into each other?
They're playing guitars together, and then they go like back to back to like when they both play guitar, and then they fuse into one guitar playing man with 4 arms.
Do any of them make a noise like when they do it?
Pearl does. Pearl starts watching and lusting after him.
No,
Oh,
but
really?
Yes.
he does. He is
Who's Pearl?
quite sweaty
So
and
you
sexual
see
in
that
a way. He has like very dead
skinny hoe with the white legs and white.
Hang on, I'm googling Steven Universe right now.
Pearl's the skinny chick.
Yeah,
And
It
she's
is the case that
gay for
Rebecca
Steven's
Sugar-
mom, but also, I guess, straight for Steven. I don't know.
How come
What's
when
the
I
sexual interest
Google
there?
Pearl Steven Universe, the safe search blurring is on notification comes up?
I can explain.
It's for
Okay.
your own
Very
sake.
interesting.
But I mean, Pearl isn't really into Steven. Like, Pearl is just in
Into
the
Steven's
gem that
dad.
is like part of Steven.
Isn't
Yeah, but,
Steven
like-
also his mom? Like, isn't
Yes.
that a thought?
Yeah, so like Steven basically like his mom reincarnated more or less into him and fused with the sperm of Greg to make
Okay,
like
but doesn't that
Wait, do
also
they-
make it weird that when he merges into his dad, like, is that not weird?
I mean it's
He's kind of
definitely
merging
weird,
with his
like,
mom.
Wait, is
again?
it like? Wait, hang on. Is it explicitly said in the show that she merges with his sperm?
No, it's not, but that's the only way that actually makes sense.
Okay, all right. I just
Because
wanted to
like
make sure.
'Cause then he's
Steven is
born.
because Steven is half human, half gem, so and they do get intimate with each other like Greg and her, so there has to be like some way, like at some point the DNA would have to be like mixed.
Yeah. So anyway, let's learn about gender.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
please.
Like I
Never
did.
heard of it.
Here's my brief correction on why ER was wrong about gender.
Gender is defined as the state of being male or female, typically used with reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones. In layman's terms, gender is not your biological sex, but what you mentally think is your sex. Now, some of you might be thinking that the brain is biological, and so there literally couldn't be any separation of your mental state from your biology. To put it another way, there'd be no meaningful separation between the terms gender and sex.
Let's break this down as quick and effectively as we can while also being extreme.
What's that?
I mean, before he goes into this more, like, this is not like what most people would call gender.
I would say
Like,
most
How do you
people
figure?
have several definitions of gender which they hop between whenever it's convenient. In the conversations I've had, it never seems to be a solid definition that's being worked with, because sometimes
Maybe, but I think this definition is uncharitable, to say the least.
it's probably a traditional
I will-
definition.
I will gladly stamp my foot down here, be as obstinate as possible, and say anytime I have ever talked to a lane man who is not in the know about any of this crap, and I will call it crap, they are like I ask them, hey, like, what's your gender, or what's the difference between sex and gender? And they'll literally look at me and be like, the fuck you mean? These aren't the same thing? So people will just use it interchangeably as a simile.
Yeah, but usually you don't go to the idiot on the street when you want to ask someone about what something means.
Yeah, I
No,
think just the average person, the average common understanding.
It kind of depends, like, what do you mean by what's the meaning of a word? Meaning isn't baked into a word, it's created through, it's a socially constructed thing that people on the street use. So in some sense, people on the street are really the highest determiners of the meaning of a term in most contexts.
Yeah, but
right?
most people on the streets, once you explain that, like, once you explain the difference between sex and gender, they would usually agree. Most people just don't use their brain cells for anything more than how do I get money and what's on TV.
I think you could break it down for a lot of people to get them to understand it. What I don't, I find the separation between sex and gender to be a confusing argument, because I find some trans people don't want a separation and some do.
I mean, I think just most common people just don't really care because they don't encounter it ever.
Yeah.
So it's not something that they need to think about or encounter or navigate around.
It's not a
like,
problem.
I mean, gender definitely originates in your body and in your brain. That's a physical thing, but like it's not necessarily the same with your sex, even though it most of the time correlates.
Yeah, but is this a
lot of gender is also socially constructed.
This is the other thing, though, too, is that like when we get into things like, you know, gender and sex, and like being like, oh well, like it's this different. It's like, yeah, but is it this different, like in the way that people use it, or is it in the academic sphere it has a different definition? Because
most things in the academic sphere are going to have different definitions, especially when you get down into like the subfields and like technical fields. Like common usage of words kind of dissipates. And
Yeah,
well, that's the thing I'm getting at, though, is like I'll like agree that like most people, once you explain to them what sex and gender is, like they'll be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But they're also probably saying that because like, oh yeah, well this is like how, like, you know, people go in Harvard or whatever use it, and that's fine because it's in a specific field. But generally speaking, I don't think anybody who hears these definitions after hearing that changes how they use these words. I'm almost certain, in fact, they'll keep using it the same way they always have.
I think Gen Z is probably hip to the distinction, though. Right.
But even if you learn something wrong and someone corrects you, that still doesn't mean that you're gonna change. You know, it's just because people are creatures of habit doesn't mean that like means anything.
It takes
Well,
a
that's
while.
not even what I'm getting at.
It takes a while to adjust, and it does take. I mean, definitions are one of those things. You can learn a definition of a word and it doesn't stick because it doesn't work in your everyday life. Like if you don't have a chance or an opportunity to use it that way, you're just not going to use it that way.
Yeah, like pH fat didn't stick around, did it?
Fat.
That was always a trend that was going to die.
It was never gonna hold on for any reasonable period of time.
But let's see this person's response to the idea of sex and
Goody.
gender can't be different.
By the
'cause
way,
your brain
Dan,
is your
no, I
body.
have no idea what flag that is. I don't think that is a flag.
Is it a gay
You don't think
flag?
that's a flag? Is that a flag? Is that a gender flag?
It's
Is that
the
a gender
Steven
fluid flag?
Universe flag.
Okay.
I
Which
feel
is a
like
gender.
that might. Yeah, I was gonna say. I
It's
think
a,
it might be an actual Steven Universe flag. If it's not, I don't know. There's too many goddamn
Luigi,
flags.
can you confirm? Is this the pride flag for Steven Universe?
I mean, let's see. So it has blue, which is lapis. It has green, which is peridot. White is pearl. You have. Although blue
Steven is
should
the orange
also
one.
be. I don't think it is, because like there would have to be like another blue in there, and I have no idea what the black dark purple is.
Smith?
So
Isn't that who does a voice on that show? Nicki Minaj. Who's the one?
Nicki Minaj.
Isn't there there's like a
The black one, you mean?
a-
You racist?
There's like
I mean,
a woman of darker complexion that is also in the music industry that does a voice on that show. Am I wrong?
yeah, she voices Garnet. I forgot what her
Yes,
name
so-
is.
Okay.
too.
All right.
Actually-
Garnet is the name of the character? Like the
Yeah.
stone
Yeah.
Garnet?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're
they're all
all-
named after stones.
Yeah, they're all named after.
Yeah.
stars.
Yeah, they're all
Oh.
gems.
Yeah, they're all.
Oh,
gems.
okay. It's all the pieces are coming together now. Where does the child porn come in?
Later.
We are all
Okay.
definitely Steven Universe experts on here.
That's right.
I am.
You can trust our opinions on this.
Here we go.
Oh, it's Estelle. Estelle does the voice.
Yeah.
It's kind of Nicki Minaj, Estelle. They're both
Oh,
the
no,
same
well, here's
fucking
the thing,
people,
though.
kind of, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, here's the thing, though, Devil. Nicki Minaj does show up in a episode. as
Oh,
a
does she?
character.
Okay. I see. I wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
She
Isn't
plays
like
one of the
Megan the
Fusions.
Stallion going to be in Big Mouth now, too?
Yeah,
Yeah,
shaking her
so-
booty.
Oh,
Because that's all she
More
does.
reason to watch it, I guess. You know.
what a brilliant show.
Yeah. That'll
Man.
be our next cartoon video essay special. Big Mouth.
Who
That's
wants
like-
to watch more Steven Universe?
Big Mouth is like an alternate universe where like Brickleberry was a hit.
Kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah. It's weird. It's like one of those shitty shows made it through, like Brickleberry, Paradise PD. I don't know.
I would have
There's like
actually
80
given
other
money-
ones.
I would have actually given money for Ugly American to succeed.
Ugly Americans was great.
I
That
know,
was a great
right?
show. That wasn't a shitty show.
I know, but it failed.
Yeah, it failed. It Drawn Together was like better. It was like more
Oh, but I love
positively received than Ugly Americans. Like Drawn Together, come on. That show's one note.
It is, but it was really funny.
I like Drawn Together.
Yeah, it was like raw, like shock humor, but it wasn't like
Oh man, it
wasn't
was
like brilliant.
No,
I will-
I'm not saying it was, but I mean that showed you one thing, which was, hey, people will definitely clutch their pearls if we just be
Yeah, true.
as
Yeah.
racist
I guess it
as
did its job.
possible.
Yeah, it did its job and it did it well. It's just I'm just surprised that had as much of a splash as it did over other better shows. But
I
Well,
think
part
it
of
was-
it, I think, is also that their whole cast is made of like all-star actors who are known for their roles in kids' TV at the time. Like fucking Twilight Sparkle was in there, Tara Strong, SpongeBob was there.
Tom
Oh,
Kenny.
Yeah,
But Tom Kenny
was
did
known-
like adult stuff before. Like he was in Mr. Show. Did you guys ever see Mr. Show?
No.
Oh,
Heard
that
of
show
it.
was so fucking funny. That was on HBO. It was Bob Odenkirk and David Cross and
Yes.
Panting over. Let's go
Extremely
back.
thorough and hopefully getting across a point that unfortunately has missed a lot of people. He states gender is not your biological sex, but what your brain believes is your sex. Our brains are biological, so how could one's mental state be separate from our biology? And basically every aspect of this is wrong, including the mental state being separate from the biology. Now, this is complicated, but it's not incomprehensible. In fact, it's fairly intuitive. Bear with me.
well, it seems like an oversimplification. Like
it is. Yeah, it is very oversimplified.
no. When like biology like means like you're in like entire like that's not like a specific term. Like I can see where he's going with this.
Like
You
the
know?
whole notion that like your mental state could even be considered something separate from all the like processes that go on in your physical body is still
True. Like, yeah, the physical processes in your body inform your mental state, but your mental state can also inform the physical processes in your body, no?
yeah. But like the fact that
I think.
that they could be one of the same, or that your mental state could just be a product or part of the biological processes is really. I don't think it's one of those questions that can get an easy answer ever.
Well, yeah,
There's
like
just so many things
like
you have to take into
biology
consideration.
biology is all encompassing. So
As it stands, my understanding is we don't really know what a mental state is.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
a physical perspective, like where is it? How does it work? How does consciousness exist? All we can seem to understand is it's complicated, it's emergent, it obviously depends on your biology. It can be changed when your biology changes. But we have not pinned down how the interaction works. All we know is that they do interact.
I have a friend who's like a nurse, and I asked him about, because this will come up, right? Since we're talking about it. I had a friend who's a nurse who like had to do like the whole pharmacy thing and whatnot, so he knows a lot about like these drugs and stuff. So I asked him the age-old question of why does an antidepressant make it so that you're more depressed? And he said, "Oh, well, that's actually like an easier one to understand than you think it would be, because the antidepressant is a stimulant. So all it does is like energize you." So he said a lot of the times what like people find that happens when people like say like it makes you more depressed is that it like stimulates people to like get out of their depressive funk and then actually motivate them to be suicidal.
Oh,
yeah,
awesome!
You get that boost you need to do that final push.
Yeah, there we go. I finally got the energy to kill myself.
All right.
Unironically.
Yeah,
when he told me
it
happened,
takes
I was like, "Holy shit!"
Those first couple weeks on a new antidepressant is pretty dangerous for that reason, because you can't predict like how it's going to.
I've never taken drugs for anything, so I can't relate.
Really curious.
Really?
Yeah, I've only done antibiotics and well, illegal drugs. But
well, I for one am actually on an antidepressant, so.
Never been on a...
Yeah, I don't know. I've never done any. Yeah, just the antibiotics, maybe some cyclobenzaprine here and there for a bad back. That's about it.
You know, a couple lines of meth, like, just with the boys.
You just take a little heroin. Just a little
I think I was prescribed codeine at one point.
Oh, sweet. Throw that shit in some Sprite and Jolly Ranchers with some promethazine, baby. You got yourself a party.
Codeine is great. I love codeine. I've had that
I've never
a few times.
I actually, that one time I had like 3 of my wisdom teeth cut out, I refused to take painkillers because I didn't want to get hooked on them. I just slept through it.
Lame.
You should have taken that ride, man. That Dragon's a great ride.
Yeah.
You would have had a lot of fun.
If
you
you're
would
like
have great stories.
normal...
You could have been like Jack Kerouac and wrote a book from it.
I don't know. How addictive are painkillers? I took painkillers a bunch of times and never got addicted. I just took them.
Didn't Rush Limbaugh eat like a tub of them?
It depends on the type of painkillers. Opioids can be quite
I've
addictive.
taken opiates and not been addicted to them at all. I just took.
Well, I mean, you don't need.
But
that just means you took it like right. There's a lot of people that
if you abuse it.
Yeah, there's also a lot of people that just since opioids are also like a muscle relaxant and it makes you de-stress in a way, like physiologically. People who are constantly stressed and then get like an opioid, then start abusing that because they want to have that unstressed feeling.
I like how cops like, oh, you got a drug addiction? Just get over it. It's no big deal. It doesn't even bother me.
Doesn't bother me, idiot.
I can take drugs, not even get hooked on them, you babies. What's your problem?
So true.
You know, I heard
people
a really
are just
great
cowards.
True.
A really great tip is to mask the taste with a peanut butter banana sandwich.
All right, let's keep going with this. So we got the claim: gender is not your biological sex, but what your brain believes your sex. Our brains are biological, so how could one's mental state be separate from one's biology? Let's see.
And
bear with me.
Just clarify: this is ER's claim
This
that
is
this guy is
ER's
going to
statement.
refute.
This will be a bit more in-depth than your second-grade biology class. The issue with ER's characterization is with the premise itself. Namely, the way that sex is categorized operates on a number of bimodal spectrums of genetic variation, from our chromosomes to our eye colors to our heights. Have you ever seen a female taller than a male? Of course you have.
Wait, hold on. Eye color. Is eye color?
No, don't. Just wait. Just wait.
Okay.
Goal size?
Because while men are generally taller than women, it is by no means rare to see exceptions. The thing is, though, we have thousands and thousands and millions of these variations for each aspect of our biology. Hair growth rates, amount of hair, tendency and placement of stored fat tissue, likelihood of heart disease, and different types of autoimmune complications. These are all things that are somewhat determinative of sex, but more so seen as increased or decreased likelihood depending on your overall placement on the bimodal graphs genetically. On this
So is this just a long way of saying that things that are true for a group are not always true for the individual, or not necessarily true for the individual?
I'm trying to understand
that's the claim that they're going to make, but
that's a true claim. I mean,
it's true.
Yes, but
I'm
the way
trying
that
to
they're framing it,
what part of the original claim this is supposed to refute?
Yeah,
I mean, he said that there are only two.
No, he didn't actually.
Two sexes, and that's why there are only two genders. And
he said that it was about mental state being separate from biology. So
okay, for the most like bone here, like just throwing like being as charitable as possible. He does say the phrase that like gender is defined by what, or like sex is defined as the state of being male or female, and gender is what you think your sex is.
Yeah, not leaving room for the NBs, huh?
Although on that image that ER shows for a second, it does bring up the concept of
oh yeah, right, yeah. What you think your sex is. So yeah. So he is saying that there are only two genders, just only two
not
genders.
Explicitly saying it,
but implicitly.
Well,
because,
I mean, how are you gonna not say that? Like, I don't understand. How are you gonna say there's more than two sexes? Like, is that the...
No, but I mean, there can be more than two genders.
I refute your point.
Silence.
I'm trying to understand like how that would work.
I mean, you can have both. You can have neither. That's 4.
How would you have both of the social role or mental state or whatever? Well, what would you describe it as, I guess?
Well, like the NB thing, for example. Like if you have like both, or like generally speaking, you act both in a stereotypically male and female way in different social scenarios.
Okay, then I have trouble envisioning a person who does both at the same time, because those seem contradictory.
Well, it's not that it doesn't have to be at the same time. It just has to be you use like
so what, I'm more
50,
outgoing
50.
when I'm with my friends, but I'm more introverted at home.
No, it's more like for example,
very normal.
No, for example, it could be something like you are really into sports and politics, which is a typically male thing. But you are also very sensitive to emotions, and you are very close to people emotionally, which is more of a female thing. And then you have like multiple of those in both directions, and then you can be NB.
But we know that things that are true for the group are not true for the individual. So
yeah, how would that work?
I mean, just because like things are mostly masculine or mostly feminine, them together in the same person doesn't necessarily.
I think interest in politics would be like high overlap between some males and some females. Like it's going to be generally more on the male side, but you'll have a significant portion of
but
women
you will
who
always
are interested, and they're not NB. They're just women who like politics.
You will.
Yeah, that's why Tim Pool's audience is 50% female, right?
Yeah,
you will always have overlap. I'm just saying that if you're already like gendering gender in the first place, and you have different things that make up your gender, then you can have, or like you have like different aspects that make up gender than people who have like about equal 50-50 distribution of like both gender like attributes. Then that person could be like NB.
That just seems
Yeah,
like
but are these really attributes, or are these just personality traits that typically fall within one of these two categories, but doesn't actually say anything about the person as far as their gender?
I mean, it depends how you define gender.
I mean, you can have a...
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah, that's... I guess that's my problem, is I just am never satisfied with the kind of wishy-washy language around it.
But to be fair, like even the old like gender definition is pretty wishy-washy and doesn't apply to, isn't very precise or
No,
applies to
well,
many
you know,
things.
I mean, the
think
old
it's-
gender definition was just sex, right? Wasn't it just tied to sex?
The oldest definition would have been just a synonymous with sex, but then
Yeah.
I think the sort of political definition that would emerge later was also pretty concrete, because what it described was these social roles that were tied to sex.
But
And
I mean,
that's
gender
something- And that's something you can locate and you can just like pinpoint at every culture and be like, okay, what are women expected to do and what are men expected to do? And pretty much every culture says, yeah, we know there's variation, but typically a feminine woman is like this and a masculine man is like this.
And then I guess you could say the newest addition to gender is the aesthetic roles, because that
Like-
seems to be very
Because I mean,
in
what do you mean with
the
aesthetic
conversation.
roles?
Aesthetic.
Like,
So
right.
what I mean is like dress, hair, like behavior,
Yeah.
social,
I mean, there would be
social interactions with other people.
There would be typical dress accepted in most cultures, but it's
I mean,
not
is
quite
that not the
as-
whole pronoun thing? Is the whole pronoun thing is about social interactions?
I mean,
The point is-
gender overall is mostly about social interactions. I would even dare to say it's basically all
socially constructed.
interactions.
Well, here's the trouble, right? You kind of want to have your cake and eat it too, because on the one hand, you want to say it's innate and it's inborn and it's like this thing that's lodged in the person mentally, physiologically, psychologically, but it's also socially constructed.
I don't see how these are necessarily mutually.
Because in a totally...
It's
It's kind of
because you
both,
could-
isn't it?
Because you could
Yeah.
take the same person and put them in a totally different culture and they would not be that.
These are all things that are somewhat determinative of sex, but more so seen as increased or decreased likelihood depending on your overall placement on the bimodal graphs genetically.
I don't think you'd say almost any of those things are determinative of sex.
Nah, you wouldn't.
The
but
only one...
I
chromosomes, yes.
beg you to keep waiting a little bit just so I can.
But I
really
mean,
attack
even
this.
the
That's what-
chromosome thing is not necessarily true. If you can have like, you can be an XX
Well,
male
we're gonna
Hold
get
on,
into
we'll
that.
get
We're gonna
that.
get
or an
into
XY
that.
female.
I
But
beg
it
you to
is-
keep.
Biologically, the determiner. That is how humans work.
I beg you to let him keep going, because then we can attack this all at once.
On this most basic level, separate from the apparent truth of just going in public and seeing genetic variation, is the fact that there isn't just XX and XY. There are people with XXY, people born with only one X, people born physically with external female genitalia but no womb, people born with a mix of both male and female genitalia, or people born with both ovarian and testicular tissue. Point being, on no level biologically do we cleanly fit into the average bimodal range of the selection of male or female sex. If you
All
are...
right,
Really?
all right,
Yes,
all
we
right.
do.
Here's where we can fully stop it and say wrong.
Yeah, no, we definitely.
Okay,
do.
so I actually have had the same opinion that this is just not true, but recently I've heard an argument that I think is good.
Okay,
on the
okay.
issue.
Let's hear the argument first. But
So, in terms of like
No,
whether or
Dan,
not
you
sex,
can't.
in terms of whether or not sex is binary, would you say that the periodic table is binary?
like
No, 'cause
between
it's
like noble
classifying
gases and metals,
different-
or like what do you mean?
Yeah, no, because in the universe, 98% of all elements are either helium or hydrogen. And it's the same with humans. 98% of all humans are just male or female in a simple term.
Yeah,
and then we
but
have
the-
like a bunch of different
hang
intersex
on,
conditions.
hang on, everybody shut
Go
up. Okay. So, but here's the thing though. There's only two types of gametes that are produced by humans. There's either ovum or there's sperm. There's not a third gamete.
Correct. So
It
do you
is
think
also the
that
fact that if all intersex people disappeared, the species would continue just fine. And in fact, it might even be better for it because intersex conditions are innately detrimental to the reproductive process. They mess with function, they mess with health. These are typically, when they're diagnosable, they're serious conditions. So
Usually infertile.
You have growth problems. Like it's just the comparison between chemicals or compounds or atoms and a biological creature's biological process and setup is just not going to be the same.
Yeah,
Because-
if everything but helium and hydrogen disappeared overnight, would the universe still exist?
No.
No,
yes.
No.
no,
it would not.
Well, certainly life would not exist.
I mean,
Life would
like,
evaporate.
yes, life wouldn't exist. Like, the planets wouldn't exist as normal, but the universe would still exist.
Would it?
It would be
Yeah,
a
I think
it
so.
would be a vacuum of.
I mean, it
one
depends.
thing.
I don't think we've figured out what existence is yet.
I think okay, let's not get too pedantic about it. Once you collapse all the things in the periodic table, it just stops functioning, essentially the way it is now. It would drastically wipe out life as we know it, and probably a lot of other things.
I guess to put it another way,
biologically, we don't need
all
intersex.
meaningful
Intersex
existence would just stop. If you removed
Intersex
everything.
does not have a biological function. It's not something that's there for a reason. It's there because something went wrong.
Plus, I'm pretty sure like intersex, like people don't even like that term. That do have what do they call it?
Some
DSD?
of them don't. They call them disorders of sexual development.
Well, development. Yeah, disorders. DSD. Yeah, disorders of
DSD.
sexual development. Yeah.
I just joined as ISD as intersex condition.
Different people prefer different things, but I think overall the life of people with these conditions is very different than, say, a trans person who's experiencing a very different kind of life. I don't know how much, I'm trying to remember how much more they get into it about the bimodal thing. And this whole argument about bimodalism where you have these two overlapping bell curves, right? We see that a lot. It's very common in sort of singular traits. So if you're comparing height between men and women, it's going to be an overlapping bell curve. It's going to be muscle density, fat distribution, sort of these very singular and very measurable and very concrete variables you can put on a bell curve very easily. I don't think the amount of female you are is easily mapped on a bell curve.
Yeah, but that's
I'm happy.
For instance, like imagine if we put on a chart chromosomal distribution. It's not going to be a bell curve because the average person, the average woman is going to have XX chromosomes by far, and very, very few are going to have anything different, so it's not going to be that kind of shape. In fact, your norm is going to be, it's going to start in the middle and then just kind of collapse. It's also not clear to me what direction on the axis you'd be moving as you go male to female. That doesn't make sense either.
I'm happy to say that there's a range of sexual development, because there's some that, there's different developments that can happen due to, different disorders and things like that. I'm not comfortable saying that sex is on a spectrum. I don't believe it's on a spectrum.
Oh, and the other thing, which also drives me crazy, is how do you know which bell curve is male or female?
I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? I mean, we are currently at a point.
We do know, right? Like trans people point out those charts all the time, say that's the female curve, that's the male curve. How do you know which one is which?
I mean, usually we just go by chromosomes because it's easiest.
I think really it all starts with chromosomes and then goes downstream from there.
I don't even think like it's physiologically in a way, because usually if you're intersex or something, then you will even if you do basically medically transition to be like more reflective of what your intersex brain is, and instead of like your intersex genitals, then those people will not be counted as transgender. I think it's a similar issue to like how like how the whole conspiracy theory that like white people are being outbred, and that's mostly because statistics are weirdly taken wherever a black person and a white person have a child, the child is then counted as black and not white.
I don't know that a lot of intersex people get surgeries anymore. I don't think that's a terribly common. It's actually.
I think if it's surgeries, it's going to be surgeries to like correct like a function that needs to be corrected. Like,
yeah, but a lot of them do get like hormonal treatments and this
maybe
if their health is being affected by a lack of a certain hormone, like their body's not working right, because that can happen. Like if you're essentially female but you have like a small biological defect, like a birth defect that's stunting your estrogen, sometimes that might happen. I don't think it's very common. A lot of the times it doesn't work, because like if you're XY female, for example, taking testosterone just converts to estrogen forever.
Yeah, because you have hyperandrogen insensitivity.
So it's like it doesn't even do anything. So even for those, it's like
I know that I mean like kids will go on hormone treatments for like lack of hormone production all the time. Well, not all. I mean, it's a rare condition, but like that will happen. Like there are like kids where because they're not like growing properly, they'll get prescribed like hormone treatments and things like that.
Man, in every way you can think of, but shorter than the average woman, then you are genetically not in full alignment with the center of the male sex as a binary concept. Nobody is. That's why sex is understood to be a bimodal distribution. Millions of genetic variations with loose correlation around the general sex. There is virtually no one person who exists, or perhaps ever existed, in the perfect equilibrium average of every one of their sex characteristics. It's a likelihood smaller than nearly anything. I mean, just think, there's 8 billion people on Earth, and not one person perfectly fits the center of the defining averages of male or female in genetic characteristics. In other words...
I don't get this point.
Okay.
This is weird...
Well, Clint Eastwood.
So here's what this person is saying. Then, like, they slightly elaborate on it in a second here, and we're getting close to the aneurysm part, so just hold on there.
All right, thank you.
So what he's claiming here is that, do you know somebody who's the perfect average of like the male height, the female height, the average male eye color, the average female hair color, the perfect fat distribution of the body, the perfect Adam's apple? Like he's like wrapping the whole of genetics and saying that like sexual, like, your sex is like determined by your overall genetic composition. And it's like, no, it's not. If anything, it's the reverse. Your sex is determined by, the XY or XX chromosomes. And then, you have an entire laundry list of, other genetic factors and physical characteristics that can be affected by this characteristic, but are not deterministic of these characteristics. For example, he's about to say that height is determined, is like, or he's at least about to make it sound like height is determined by your sexual characteristic, which is obvious lunacy.
I don't think that's necessarily what he's trying to say. I interpreted
Well,
this...
we don't know yet.
Okay.
Let's argue with the video, please.
Okay, Amazon.
Look, I'm sorry. We've done this like 3 times now, and it's starting to get annoying. It feels like we're arguing with ourselves more than we're arguing with the video at points. Like after a certain point.
True.
Okay.
None of us fit it. So in other words, there's not a rule with a few exceptions, as it's sometimes framed with these chromosomal exceptions. Instead, we are all exceptions that, when pooled and cataloged by the millions, average out into generalized rules when placed on a graph. You know this when you line up kids by height in school, and guys generally tend to be higher and girls tend to be lower, but there's quite a few mixing in the middle. So, knowing this, go to Walmart or like a local park. You can prove the genetic variation yourself. Do you know someone with different eye color than you? Do you know someone with different hair color than you? Hair length? Hair thickness? Knowing this, why would we assume 100% of people and 100% of those 100% of people's brains genetically happen to land perfectly in the equilibrium of male or female? It's a childlike, ridiculous thing to take seriously for any length of time with a professional. But it's also very complicated to understand.
I think this, I don't think I disagree with anything he said there. This sounds just logical.
I disagree with everything that he's saying here.
How? I mean, do you agree that there is not like a blueprint for what it is to be male or female, and thus there are always genetical differences and genetical like variations?
I do think there is a blueprint to being male or female.
Do you think there is a true there's a true human male that we can figure out, from which we can like take what is male and what is female?
There's millions of true males and true females out there.
Okay, but they all have different genetic variations.
Yes,
there's not like one. There's not like one Uberman.
But they all share certain characteristics. That's the thing.
But that's the thing. So, like, is your male? Is you being male the sum total of all your genetics, or more of a result of a few specific genes that you have and chromosome pair?
If we're saying that, hold on. If we're saying if this person, the claim from the video is because there's so much genetic variation, how could we ever say that people won't have male or female or whatever brains, right?
No, he's saying that
genetic variation in the brain as well.
Yeah, he's saying that there's so much genetic variation, so how could you believe that there's just 100, that's like all humans are either 100% male-brained or 100% female-brained?
I feel like there's a couple well, first you'd have to really he hasn't made the argument about how we understand brains develop on a genetic level. Just kind of breezed right past that whole concept, because how you gotta be able to articulate how a brain would develop, because a brain has the same genes as the rest of the body. It's just the cells are differentiated, but the genes and the chromosomes are the same up there as they are everywhere else. So you'd have to be able to detail some kind of biological function by which you'd be able to say they are separate. So that's one big problem here. The other one is, again, I just don't know how you would decide what's a male or a female brain if it's true that there's so much genetic variation that we just don't know. We don't know who's male or female at this point. And if we're going to throw up our hands and say, oh, there's just so much, we just don't really know who's a true male or a true female. Well, you can't make a claim that a brain is male or female without having some kind of sense of what a male and what a female is. Like what that means and what traits you're looking for. Again, the only way you'd be able to argue that is by looking at scans of averages. So you're playing into the averages again.
Yeah,
so you haven't escaped it. You've just done the same thing.
Why can't we look at gamete production? Why can't that be the?
I mean, if you don't produce gamete, if you don't produce a gamete, does it make you neither male or female?
Yeah, but do you? What's the organ that produces the gamete? What is that organ in you? Like that? Wouldn't that be like the determiner then? Just like even though you have an ovary that's unable to produce eggs, you still have an ovary.
Okay, so a person that looks completely male has a ball sack, has a penis, but in the ball sack there's an ovary which does exist. That person's female.
Don't know if that exists.
That exists.
I know that ovotestes exist. That there's like very few cases of that though, and ovotestes can produce sperm or ovum. Like I think that there's cases of both, but usually it's
a lot of this stuff, sex determination just kind of starts with a top-down process. It's you start with the chromosomes, and then given that doesn't work for some reason, like there's a chromosomal problem, or
I just think we are
the gene itself. Then you go, okay, well, let's go to the physiology and what gamete are they producing? What's the body organized around producing? and you just kind of have to follow that path, that rabbit hole,
This
until
is
you
also
make
the
a good.
case too, right? Like, so like the gamete production is like, oh well, they have male testes, but they produce ovaries, and it's like, okay, well, now let's use the rest of everything we know about like, you know, human physiology and human biology to identify some other key factors and characteristics here. So what's their testosterone production in the body? What's their estrogen levels? What's the breast tissue of this person?
I do, yeah. Luigi, I want to give you a chance to answer. Then I want to see if
Okay.
you say anything else about the brain, because I'm curious.
Yeah, I just think we are currently at a time where some of our generalized scientific understanding is being questioned, and we are laymen in the Middle Ages that are now discussing something we have no idea of just because of our traditions and our intuition.
As complex biological structures and science often is. So, how would a brain know that it aligns more with the male or female sex on a genetic and biological level? Well, ask it. If your brain is biological, and your brain is telling you it feels more comfortable in the presentation that fits more so with the stereotypically feminine or masculine, especially to the point that it makes you feel terrible to have been born into the sex or the body that you were, then it is unlikely for the brain to feel that way, enjoy these things, want to do such a thing if not genetically predisposed to in that way. After all, our personalities are entirely determined by a single area in our brain. Basically, every high school psychology course in the...
So I think he's about to give an example, but how do we feel about that?
I agree with what he said. I mean, essentially, he's saying that because trans people are a thing, more or less, that if you have a brain that is biological and it seems to know that it wants to have specific, that it wants to act in a specifically gendered way and wants a specific sex as their body, even though it's not the one that the body or that the brain is actually in, that means that there's actually some genetic reason that this brain is doing that, and as such there's genetic variance, and if trans people exist, then there's probably even more genetic variance.
I mean, I think that's a perfectly acceptable simplified explanation of what gender dysphoria is, but my problem is that he's presenting this sort of simplified explanation as though it's like a deep medical definition almost, or like this is like a scientific definition of it.
I mean, he's a layman too.
Yeah,
True,
I have
yeah.
a couple problems with this. I mean, first off, he says it's really complicated, but let me break it down. All you have to do is ask the brain. I'm like, that's not.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah,
that
it's
doesn't
like an
strike
ultra
me
simplified.
as a particularly scientific way of understanding the genetic variation of a brain. Is just to ask the person, as if a brain could tell you what chromosomes or what genes are being expressed in itself. I don't think that's a thing. So that part doesn't make sense to me. What you are getting when you essentially ask a brain to tell you, and even that is a little weird because you're not talking to a person's brain. You're talking to.
You're always talking to a person's brain.
I think what's going on in your brain and what comes out of your mouth, there's some process going on between those two where it's not just unfiltered brain talk. And I don't know how self-aware a brain is of its own processes even. Like, can my brain right now, can I be like, all right, well, right now I have a thought traveling from my left hemisphere to my right hemisphere and it's doing this and it's connecting to this memory, that memory. I don't really know that. It's very tangled up and becomes very murky, and then I just find a way to express it in language that's very imprecise.
It seems like it's just an oversimplification, and it's not like there are if we're going to talk about intersex and the very, 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 very low percentage of terrible mutations that come from those sorts of birth defects that come from those improper chromosomal pairings. You're gonna have to a much more common phenomenon that throws a wrench into the idea that you can simply just ask someone or ask your brain what it's thinking or what's right, is that there are a lot of times where our brains are just wrong. They will tell us they will tell us the wrong things, and what we think is real is not actually real. It's very well
there are
observed.
some things you can just kind of ask and ascertain. I think like gender dysphoria, generally you can ask someone if they're experiencing it and they should be able to tell you that they're experiencing it. Depression, negative feeling. They generally, you can say, yeah, I feel bad, and that's pretty easy to translate. What's harder to translate is like more existential questions. Like,
I mean,
how genetically female are you?
Yeah, but that's not his argument. His argument is that he's basically making you have an internal, like you can express your internalized reality, and your internalized reality is always correct.
But what if it's incorrect?
No, your internalized reality is always correct. Your emotions that you're feeling right now,
he says,
are always correct, but that doesn't mean that's external
not what he
reality.
Said, though. He didn't say it's about your emotions. He said it's a genetic variation, genetic predisposition. In fact, is what he said.
Yeah, I mean, his argument.
What I'm saying is, let's say someone says, "I feel like a girl" or "I feel like a boy" on the inside, and we're like, "Okay, great. Let's get you in that scanner. Let's do some DNA testing samples of your brain matter." And we do all the tests and we do all the scans and everything turns up normal. Like there's no evidence of any genetic abnormalities, any brain structure differences. Like at that point, do we say, oh, they're lying? They're making it up? Or do we say this is just one of those cases where the brain is feeling something that doesn't actually match a physical reality? It's a feeling that has come upon this person.
But I mean, if the person is feeling that, then they still have gender dysphoria.
Yeah,
it's
and
just
I think
a different cause for
we all
it.
agree that. What we don't agree is that means therefore they must have a female brain or a male brain.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, that was the difference I was trying to make. I was trying to say that you can always ask the brain what it's like, what its internal reality is, because that's literally what our brains are. We just say what our internal reality is and we think about it, but it doesn't mean that our the external reality is thus the same as our internal reality.
Yeah, but we don't always express our internal. I mean, we can lie.
We can.
I mean, we can lie.
It's pretty uncommon to lie about. Well,
some people do it without even thinking.
Some people are self-deceitful. Right. It's.
I was gonna say there's another like aspect of this too, where it's just like, like you can believe strongly that you are something. You can even strongly believe that you have gender dysphoria, and then there's even a possibility that you'll get a little bit older and then you turned out to be wrong about it. So the idea that that the brain is an accurate narrator of what your internal logic is
I think
brains
you're
also
making
change. They also are plastic.
Yeah, you're having I think you're having a misunderstanding here. Even if the brain changes and they don't have gender dysphoria in like 5 years, that doesn't mean they don't have gender dysphoria now. And that they can't express that they have gender dysphoria, or that they are wrong about having gender dysphoria.
Again, I think that's not this person's argument. They're not talking about gender dysphoria. They're talking about gender. Like actual...
By using trans people as an example.
I don't know if he's explicitly said trans people, but he's heavily
He's saying there are people with brains that do not match their body.
Yeah.
That is the claim. And instead of going into any kind of... I expected at this juncture some kind of research or like, here's a biological mechanism by which a brain would, develop in opposition to the rest of the body's sex, or it would have these, it could be impacted by these hormones or the brain structure, like your typical kind of stuff. But instead, he just says you just have to ask the person, and they can tell you what gender their brain is, which is like I think that's just vastly incorrect on almost every level. They can tell you if they're feeling distressed. They can tell you what they want. They can tell you what they are attracted to. They can tell you a lot of details about their inner life, but I don't think they can look inside their brain and be like, aha, I have a female brain in there.
But you're just changing that. Like, why are you now saying that gender is like equal to male or female brain necessarily?
Because he said
the claim that was made.
He said male or female brains. He said that exactly in the video.
Isn't that the argument that he's trying to refute?
No, the claim that he made here was that you can ask the brain what it is, and that response will be as a result of the genetic sum of like this brain's interaction.
Yeah.
So he's making the claim here that if the brain says it is female, it's because of genetics,
which we have not proven.
Is that not saying that, like, therefore this person has a female brain if their brain is claiming to be female?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that they have they could still have a male brain that genetically tells them that they are female. I don't see how that's like.
How? I mean, now I'm confused. All right, let's pause on this.
I don't know if we are 10 seconds away from
more stuff.
Pretty much the spot. Yeah, the spot that I stopped at. This isn't even the part I had an aneurysm about. I'm about to get fucking
well,
pissed.
I think we'll have a good discussion about this section because I have a lot of thoughts about it.
But we are also starting to get into the threshold of this is about to be the point where I did not see the rest of this video.
Okay,
for
good.
Me,
so
this is
new.
Yeah, this will be uncharted territory for me going forward.
Cool, let's go.
After all, our personalities are entirely determined by a single area in our brain. Basically, every high school psychology course in the US covers the story of Phineas Gage, who in the 1800s took a beam through the skull and on a dime miraculously lived, but also miraculously changed completely as a person until the day that he died.
I would want to adjust the language a little bit there. It's not that a single region of the brain is responsible for your entire personality.
Yeah.
I can assume that there are other regions of the brain that also have other effects. But this is true, right? Physical damage to a brain can radically change your personality in the right conditions.
Yeah, I would assume that brain damage, no matter where it's located in the brain, was going to affect your personality.
Yeah. I think...
I mean, Gary Busey.
I wonder if certain parts of your brain do more for it or less for it. But I know, for example, you know, both halves of your brain are doing crosstalk and negotiating.
Also, just for the audience, the case that he's talking about is of a person. There was like an explosion. And like a metal piece got thrown into his skull, destroying a lot of his brain, and his personality changed from being a nice, sociable guy to being completely antisocial and like cursing a lot at people and like being a complete asshole, basically.
Yeah, and I think there's
that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a modern case of this too, of a guy that got a pipe through the skull, and he became like a really crappy person. Brain damage seems to do that. It seems to make people mean.
Let's keep going.
Let's go.
We exist on a number of spectrums, but when we organize all of these genetic variations, the features create on a graph 2 mounds of general genetic variation. So, I know that was really fast, but that's genetic variation in sex, and how it can fall more or less on one side or the other for literally millions of different genetic components. And
yet there's 2 mounds. Checkmate.
All right, so
here we go.
I just want to. So this is the part where my. All right, so we're past this point. Him bringing up Phineas Gage enrages me. It enrages me more than it should, because the framing of this whole thing is that, you know, like we have like the whole underlying message of Phineas, like, you know, the whole underlying message of not Phineas Gage, sorry, of like gender going on. This whole video is a discussion about what gender really is, what it really means, and this is a response to ER in the first place. And he brings up Phineas Gage very quickly, just runs past it as quickly as possible. And so far, from the way that this video has been presented, I'm expected to believe that this person is making the claim again, because it really does sound like this in all of the language that he's using, that your sum total of genetics is like the determiner of your gender or your sex. And then he brings up Phineas Gage, which changed massively as a person because of this brain damage. And we've done a lot of research into this, because we actually have a ton of examples of this, not just Phineas himself, but of lobotomized patients. And we've kind of, like, that's part of the reasons why we have really good mappings of what the brain does, and like what general areas of the brain are responsible for what, because we've managed to harness the data from this very dark time of psychology and use it to inform ourselves today. And one of the most important, one of the most important things about Phineas Gage is that it's not as simple as he changed as a person. Phineas Gage, before and after the accident, was still Phineas Gage. What changed was Phineas Gage's his ability to filter his own actions and thoughts. The general going theory at this point for what happened to him is he lost a lot of his ability to basically, he was constantly drunk, more or less. He had no inhibitions anymore. So he regularly ran around town streaking and drinking belligerently and swearing and cursing.
That's just a regular Saturday night for Dan.
Was he just Irish?
Point
well,
being,
he was a railroad worker. So.
True.
Very, very quickly, just being like, see, like, Phineas Gage completely changed the person just because of a small change to his brain, and like having this whole thing be like an underpinning footnote in this whole discussion to me feels really fucking dishonest.
I think it's just to cement his point that our brain is biological, and that if our brain is changed through either genetic differences or through an accident, then we change as a person. I think that's this. I think he's just trying to say this simple point, and that's why he didn't harp on it too much.
Wasn't that ER's point, though, is that the brain is biological? And that's the point that he's trying to refute?
Yeah, I'm a little confused about which parts how each thing connects to each point of ER's argument. It's all kind of like they're talking past each other a little bit. I mean, that's part of the hard thing about when gender is ill-defined. You can kind of just keep saying statements like the brain is biological. It's like, okay, cool. We all agree brain is biological. What does that have to do with this?
And can I just say, I think it's fine that gender is ill-defined. I don't know why there's such like a heavy thing of like, we need to have this like really strong, solid definition. I guess that bad actors are using it like against trans people in a way to like diminish them, or but the horrible things that get said about
my only
trans people all
frustration
the
is
time,
whenever I talk to people about it, you have to shift gears every 2 sentences.
True, that can be annoying, but like I think it's.
I thought we were saying this. No, we're talking about this thing now. I'm like, oh god. Honestly,
I think it's fine for like normal people to just throw their hands up and be like, yeah, sure, whatever. It is whatever you say it is. I'm gonna go to Starbucks. Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, they just don't rely on. They don't think of a hard and fast or concrete definition of gender. They just go off, I know it when I see it.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But like another thing that I just wanted to cap before we let Tenny run amok.
Strip naked.
I don't
drink all
I don't
the town.
think to like, because I feel like this like we have to have strict definitions of gender and all this stuff is like in service of like defending trans people, and I just wanted to say that like I don't I don't think you need that to like defend trans people. Like it can be just a little nebulous, and that's all right because it is. Like we don't know all this stuff like for sure. And like this whole video stating stuff like, oh well, we concretely know this, and we've all been this whole conversation be like, well, we concretely know this, and we concrete. Like I think it's fine to just be like, yeah, there's a gray area, whatever. It's not really that important to like make a YouTube video about it, like we are.
Yeah, it's not important.
Anyway, Tenny, go on.
Most people, I think, will not have a strict definition of gender. They'll just look at someone, and if they meet certain criteria, then they'll be classified, and they'll just think, oh, that person's either a man or a woman. That's just how people are.
Or a femboy.
Mm.
And I think that wanting to have a concrete definition of, I think wanting to have a concrete definition that's like a dictionary definition, or like a really strict, totally smoothed out definition of that word is impractical.
Well, the only reason you need to, like, you don't need to, quote unquote, but the reason you feel you need to have a strict definition is because there's so many loud voices out there who are claiming to have strict definitions on either side.
Well, I don't.
And teaching it.
Yeah. I think my biggest categorical frustration is when people lump gender and gender dysphoria as the same thing and just say one or the other. And I feel like those two are separate and different things entirely.
Can I ask a small question that's a little bit derailing, but it's just really quick?
No, this whole episode's derailed. Go for it.
Danimo, you mentioned femboys.
No, I mentioned femboys.
Okay, yeah. As a full on gay, wouldn't a femboy be a turn off because they look more feminine?
I'm not into them.
Yeah, isn't femboy more like traps for bi people or like straight people?
The Amazon?
Because like a true gay wouldn't be attracted to the feminine attributes, right?
It's a good question. It's like it's a gay relationship for a straight man. That's what it is.
It's a sexual gray area.
Ray is struggling to get words out.
Okay. So here's the part where this is where I'm gonna throw my thing on the table here, right? Of like being like a furry here and be like, it's a preference thing, bro. Being into femboys doesn't make you not gay or not like strictly like you could be attracted to all kinds of men as a gay person. You could be attracted to all kinds of women as a straight man. You could be attracted to all kinds of people as a bisexual person. Like with the femboy thing, it's like, oh, wouldn't it be a turnoff for a gay man for like having a femboy? And it's like, well, it entirely depends on the person.
This is, well, you see, femboys, I think, are useful for distinguishing gender and sex, because you could say a gay man is gonna only want men biologically, but they might have variation in what kind of gender presentation they prefer.
Exactly.
Among said men. So there's a biological layer, but there's also like a social / cultural / behavioral layer kind of laid on top.
So
it's always on top. It's never
almost like gender. There is no pure sexuality either, which means it's
I don't know about that.
There
I don't know about that.
100% straight men and 100% gay men.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's still like if you have a gay man who's into a femboy, like and there it's just like, oh well, you like the female presentation, and you could get an answer that it's as easy as, no, I just like it when he dresses in drag.
Oh no!
Like it can just be a kink thing.
Yeah.
Amazon, what do you have to say about your kink? Lay it out on the table. Ray already laid out his furriness, so.
Can we stop laying our things on the table? I think there's enough dicks on there already.
Yeah.
Look, I will not remove my 18-inch throbbing sausage sandwich, okay? Don't worry about the fact that it's throbbing, it's still hot, okay?
Should I put my boobs on the table? Is that my comparative?
Okay, let me take my pants off here.
So, I've actually
your pants just came off? Mine have been off.
My
Always
shirt
ready.
might come off. It's fucking hot as hell in my house right now.
I made a video about that was the one that Dan was in, where I talked a bit more about like bisexuality, but like again, I agree with what Ray was saying. It's pretty much just a personal preference thing, and what you may find attractive as a bisexual, what you may find attractive in a woman may not be the same things that you want from a man, and vice versa. Maybe you want a big buff woman, but you would want a more twinkish boy. It just depends on what. Well, I should say man. You want a twinkish man, but
A twinkish
So
child. Just for
I
you.
think I think this is this is the last time I'll mention this, because for whatever
This is
reason,
all getting cut, by the way.
Yeah, that's
you know
fine.
that,
This
right?
whole episode. What do you mean
My
this whole
part
episode's getting
too.
cut? I'm cutting all
No.
For
Why you
whatever
just ask me a question and then cut me? That's messed up.
for whatever reason, like, I get stuck on this because, like, isn't that just like literally the same thing that people who are like gender advocates are saying, but like for sex, and it's just your opinion has changed because of time. They're like in the 50s, they probably would have said no, there are only like there may be some gays, but they're 100% gay, and there's 100% straights. There's nothing in between. Like, I don't know.
Well, the difference being is specifically medical biology, and that's where like a lot of people have problems with the definitions of sex and gender come into play. Not something, and of course, the people that apply it to lesser things
I think
like
people have
Steven
always known
Universe.
about bisexuals. They just knew they're sluts.
That too.
Mm-hmm.
We
Always.
just
Like
called
we already
them
had a word for it.
we called them
Just whores.
college lesbians.
Yeah,
Yeah.
college lesbians or experimenting boys who go to boarding
Wingers.
school and they experiment like that. I think we've always been pretty aware of fringe or minority sexual behaviors. It's just
Yeah,
whether
we just had
we celebrated or appreciated or allowed them was the changing attitude.
There was a specific attitude about it, If you don't ask, don't tell.
That's right. Don't ask, don't tell.
So I've been wanting to bring up this point for a little bit, but I haven't been able to interject it. So
Sure, go ahead.
apologies. This is where I'm slamming this right in the hole here. But
Hot.
so I don't think the brain is a sum total of genetics. Actually,
Is it God?
Yes, I am a very religious person, Danimal. You
We
know
all know
me.
that. Mhm.
No. I think the brain is actually the result of three things specifically. Your actual physical biological makeup, which you could easily substitute for the word genetics. Your environment, and that of which you absorb through stimuli and other concepts and whatnot, and then like the sum total of your current brain chemistry, which I know brain chemistry is one of these things where it's like, well, isn't that genetic? And it's like, well, no, because it's both. Your genetics will inform what like your general brain chemistry probably is, but outside stimulus, outside factors can affect it, and in not insignificant ways.
So, like, basically epigenetics.
I'm unfamiliar with it, but you might be able to educate me.
Part of
Well,
it.
it's not quite the same thing, but
It's
yeah.
it's different. But yeah, it's a stimuli. I mean, we know brains are plastic and they respond to external and internal stimuli in very complicated ways, and we don't really understand a lot of it.
I think the brain is kind of like a rock. Like it's got a shape, but it can be chiseled away to make different formations.
And there's a lot of argument to be had about like how flexible is it? Like how much can a brain change?
Well,
under
that's
certain
the thing. That's
conditions?
why
And we don't really know. We don't know how much of that's genetic. Like some people are very susceptible to trauma, some people are not.
I mean, some people could be hypnotized, and those people are pussies.
Yeah, true.
Some people do it for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people
At
are
the
into
sex-
that
the
really
sex
gay
parties.
sissy hypno, I hear.
Oh yeah. Tenny knows all about the sissy hypno.
Yeah, Tenny's real big into it.
I'm sorry, I'm
What?
about to be I'm like about to just be super homophobic, but I will just quickly say I hate the concept of sissy hypno.
It's
I
pretty
think
bad.
It's fucking
It's-
fake.
It's pretty bad. Oh,
But that's me! And that's
well,
just the
we should
theory.
we've been yakking for a while, so I'm gonna hit play.
Let's keep going.
And in
Yay.
extreme examples, may create things like visually distinct secondary sex characteristics or gender dysphoria in brain science. Not to even mention that people have done brain scans on MTF and FTM trans people and seen that the gray matter aligns more so with the sex that they desire to be mentally.
So I want to pause there just to say, like, this is what I was expecting earlier and didn't get. So there we go. At least something. I do want to add, from what I have seen in other research, is this only maps onto male to female who are attracted to males.
As far as I understand, there are more than that study that actually go into that, and people tend to say that there's only the one study where they looked into brains who already had gone through HRT or are on HRT currently. But it seems that there are also other studies that have it before taking HRT that also confirm that there seem to be transgender brains seem to be.
Well, the HRT thing is separate. It is a factor that a lot of them don't correct for, but what I'm saying is other studies looking at sexuality, you can actually distinguish those who are attracted to men and those who are attracted to women, and they have different brains, even though they're both MTFs.
I mean, that would make sense.
So yeah, so essentially what you're getting at is a brain that's more similar to a homosexual male, like Danimal.
Hey.
Animal
I got a
are
good
most
brain.
And largely MTFs who are attracted to women have mostly typical male brains.
And what about MTFs that are the hyper race of being bisexual?
Bisexual.
Like
I don't know
me.
that. I don't think they've done research specifically on bisexual. So
I like both.
They probably should, because I'm guessing there are a higher rate of bisexuals among MTFs than other subgroups.
Geez, sorry for this long tirade. But this is basically a pocket edition of debunking every anti-trans argument using actual facts and logic.
Actual
Now we're on.
facts and logic.
Did he?
Did you not know facts don't care about your feelings?
That's right.
Tenny, can you break out the Ben Shapiro impression?
I think he's
Uh-oh.
AFK.
He's dead.
He
He's
died. No, when we needed him most. He vanished.
On to gender. Gender as a concept are socially constructed guidelines and cultural details that associate with broader sex trends and beliefs of the culture and time. Girls wear pink, boys wear blue. This is not biological, and in different cultures and different time periods, the opposite things have been true, with blue being for girls and pink being for boys. We know girls to wear high heels and guys to wear flat bottoms and sneakers, except high heels were originally invented explicitly for men to specifically wear. Boys play basketball, girls do ballet or gymnastics. Nowadays, there are nearly as many women in women's sports leagues as there are men's. But back...
All that I agree with, and I think we can probably all agree with, yeah?
Yeah, sure. Like this is where we're finally talking about the socially constructed elements of gender.
Does that mean when Philosophy Tube wears heels that they're affirming their male gender?
Yes.
Philosophy Tube, when wearing heels, is affirming their horse gender because they were made to be better horse riders.
Back in the day, it was seen as mannish and not something that a woman should be interested in. Because these gendered aspects, while in some cases aligning with the average bimodal interests of male and female, was an average, not a rule. And on top of that, because it was socially constructed, this often led women to being seen as a second sex, a second class with less legal rights. Often,
if only those days are back, am I right, fellas?
The Fair Credit Reporting Act ruined everything.
I have a quick question, which is
I can't wait to transition into something with less rights.
Yeah.
Perfect.
there's a very simple question I have. And remember, this is all brand new to me. Why are you bringing this up? What purpose does
Well, the second
this
sex.
have?
Well, Simone de Beauvoir is on the who. I like how I
Oh,
mangled that.
wow.
I mangled that French name. She invented the sort of political definition of gender that we use today. So it is relevant in that sense.
There was also something about a letter she wrote. I don't know to who about what.
Something about
Okay,
France.
okay, so
was it
my-
French?
I guess my question is,
It was in French. Something about the kids. I don't know.
Huh.
how
Does
quickly
she
does
like
he hold on
kids?
this point about like the female
much.
gender being the second sex or whatever?
I mean, I just think it's just a historical, like, little.
Okay, so
boop.
he's just being very brief about this right
Yeah,
now.
just breezing through it.
Okay.
I think
fine.
most people would know the second sex is sort of the seminal text.
And anybody who would be watching this video in this space interested in this topic knows that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, this isn't a video meant for mass distribution.
Often, the averages making up general interests were used to compound and force people to fit more rigidly into specific boxes. This is borderline eugenicist thinking, because it is forcing genetic reality to fit into artificially constructed boxes rigidly and with little exception, rather than creating boxes that more accurately reflect the biological truth of genetic variation. When
So,
people mean
I have
gender,
a question.
this is what they
Yeah.
How does this relate?
I don't even know how this relates back to the ER's original claim of that is mental separate from biology. Like, we seem to have not even come close to that.
Like, I feel like I was
Mental
tricked
state.
into this episode by Steven Universe,
Uh-huh.
and now we're talking about the same stuff we keep talking about.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
all the
I'm
time.
waiting for the critique of Steven Universe to get corrected, but I guess we're not. We're not defending Steven Universe today, boys.
apparently, like, I will say, like, I guess the whole thing here is that he just wanted to, like, refute this one part of ER's video that actually had nothing to, not like ER related it back to Steven Universe, but the concept itself just, like, has nothing to do with Steven Universe.
Is it just something that's in the video just to
Yeah,
like
he's
troll or what?
He's just
It's a
responding to one
sidebar.
thing in the video that, like, ER brought up about, like, the John Money stuff and, like, how the original formation of the word gender came about.
Yep. All
And
right.
he's refuting that part.
Awesome.
refer to. These socially constructed boxes that are mixed in with scientific half-truths and histories of willful subjugation of women as a lower class. Wanting to broaden these ideas more so outside of the rigid boxes isn't anti-science. It's keeping up with biological reality and a whirlpool of evidence. If you're still uncertain or think, well, surely gender ideas that we have somewhat formed more nebulously from genetics because they were the result of the average people creating them in a culture. This can also be disproven, because not only things like the high heel example that I already mentioned, changing in time and context, but also the existence of hundreds of mutually cohabitating cultures all across the planet that have sometimes similar, sometimes dissimilar, and sometimes completely different or opposing stereotypes associated with the gender in their respective cultures.
Hold on. What is this point?
That first statement was very confusing.
I'm gonna be honest, I have the feeling this video is getting more incoherent the longer it
Yeah,
goes
right.
on.
Like, I'm not stupid, right? Like, this is like difficult to follow.
That was
This is
difficult
like-
to follow.
Yeah, like I
think
honestly like I
think what he was saying was that, well, doesn't it mean that gender stereotypes must emerge from biological categories? And he's saying no, because if you look at different cultures, they have different stereotypes. So the stereotypes
it's going to
can't
be
biological.
it's going to be biological categories mixed with environment, right?
I mean, I might be showing
Yes,
my.
and there are some stereotypes that are stable. That's something that's not always pointed out. If you look across pretty much every culture, no culture has a stereotype of women being aggressive and tough and doing all the hunting. Like, that's just, the Amazon doesn't exist. There are
What about
women
Boudica?
who are warriors as individuals, but no culture is like, stereotypically, women are like these big, tough hunters and men are these Nancy boys who sit around the kitchen and cook all day. Like, there's...
Dude, let's bring back women should be seen, not heard. Shut
Yeah.
the fuck up, Kev, and put your webcam on.
I'll take my shirt off slowly.
Oh, sweet.
But like, so like, I might be sticking on this point unnecessarily. But one thing that he brought up that I figured he would elaborate on is like he brings up these like, oh, like fitting people into rigid boxes, and then he brings up the concept of creating a bunch of boxes, and I just want to be like, well, doesn't that seem like the wrong solution to this problem? Where like instead of trying to make a billion boxes, instead a better solution is just be like, yeah, sure, like, you know, people are male or female, but that doesn't really say anything about your personality.
I think my problem with that argument is you don't have to have one or the other. Because
yeah, no, like
in different situations, you need a higher resolution of like category. So you need to zoom out and you need to look at very, very small differences between individuals to figure something out. But for everyday purposes, you really don't need that. You just need men, women, blah. Like that's, you don't need all these hyper specific differences in mind to make most of your decisions.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that like when we talk about like gender, we talk about the socially constructed parts of it, right? Like to me, it's like, oh, well, like these things exist to put people in the rigid boxes. I'm sorry.
Danny, are you still gone?
No, I'm back.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I just want to check.
I've been back for a while.
We needed you for a Ben Shapiro.
We needed you for a
impression,
Ben
and you weren't here.
Shapiro, and it was very sad because we
What-
needed
what-
you to say that this video proves gender's a spectrum with facts and logic.
Okay.
He won't do it.
I've got maybe
Well-
20 more minutes, by the way.
Okay, let's keep going.
Well,
We'll miss out.
hypothetically, let's say. let's just go.
This contradiction becomes even more apparent in languages with gendered masculine and feminine grammar. For example, the concept of a key in German is masculine, associated often with being heavy, rough, and hard, while in Spanish it's categorized
What he's
as
saying
feminine,
here
associated...
is wrong. It's from a debunked study.
Also, this kind of would go against his argument because that something that is hard, heavy, and jagged being male and golden, intricate, and little being female, that actually is evidence that those stereotypes are common across languages.
Mm-hmm.
It's just...
Kav, how dare you?
Yeah, this specific study he's like basically going off on has been debunked because it's been faulty.
What study was this? Was this from a long time ago or recently?
It's a relatively new study. It's basically about where they put a bunch of people with gendered like nouns and words into a room, and they gave them gender neutral things like a bridge or like a key that had different like grammatical genders. And then they wanted them to give them attributes. But the thing is that people relatively quickly caught on that they just wanted them to anthropomorphize them.
Okay.
And that's why they like, okay, so it's female key, so I'm just gonna say, oh, it's elegant. And the whole study was basically just a whole waste of time.
Yeah, it's just pulling on their already preconceived notions of feminine versus masculine. In other words, so it didn't really prove anything. Okay, cool. That's kind of what I thought. I'm like, this just seems to reinforce it rather than prove that gender is totally random, culture to culture.
With small, intricate, and little. Same exact concept. A key. With totally different gender signifiers that actively contradict each other. Hard-baked into two coexisting modern cultures and languages.
A better example would be if you could get them to describe a masculine key as delicate and another culture describes it as masculine but tough. It would have to be totally
essentially different. Grammatical genders just have nothing to do with male or female.
Yeah.
That's actually like what the conclusion of the study was. It has nothing to do with it.
If you watch my Persona 4 series, you may remember the third gender, but not really a gender, but kind of a gender that Japan had in the pre-Meiji eras. If you haven't seen those videos, the Persona 4 analysis series is definitely worth watching.
The
Native
third
American
gender he's
cultures also
talking about
famously
is
have
also
additional
not
gender
really a
signifiers
thing.
other than man and woman,
It
and
never
different
is.
other cultures.
They're almost
he's
always
The thing
homosexuals.
he's talking about is basically, it's just bottoms.
He's talking
or
about
or,
a specific,
or like
actually listening about
transgender
this.
women.
He's so I've heard this argument before.
Tenny knows
talking
all about bottoms.
About the the supposed third gender in Edo period Japan. The concept they're describing is something called wakashu, which literally meant something more like an attractive young man or attractive youth. And it
In
described
Japan?
like usually males in their like late adolescence, early 20s who would be like homosexually involved with like samurai, kabuki actors, and noblemen. And they would also moonlight as prostitutes. In fact, one of the reasons that women were banned from being kabuki actors is because the female actors would moonlight as prostitutes. The Edo government banned that, but then the male actors would also moonlight as prostitutes for samurai, nobles, and patrons.
They caught on. They're like,
it became basically, if you were just a really attractive, like a handsome young man, especially if you did you dress a certain way, had your hair done a certain way, that would be considered a wakashu, which is more, in a sense, it's kind of like a bishonen, but sort of a pre-modern
you
period.
might call it a kawaii. Yeah, that's the
sounds like a bunch of weeb shit.
Look, I read a lot of books, not a lot of books, but a lot of
fan
first and
fiction,
secondhand sources about I
that's
actually have a book over there about it on my bookshelf.
I will say we are against all odds here. We're 10 minutes into this 18-minute video, which I did not expect, and so far this video is like degrading in front of my eyes, so I'm really actually interested to see what happens.
Let's do it.
Cultures throughout time, both currently around and not, make such exceptions outside of just two as well. So, I hope that wasn't too much. You can always re-listen if you need to, and while wording it this way makes sense to me, there's probably other people who would explain it better to you. But if you think that you have absorbed the general idea of what I said, let's revisit ER's statements.
Oh
He states,
God, no way.
Gender is not your biological sex, but what your brain believes is your sex. Our brains are biological, so how could one's mental state be separate from our biology? Do you see?
I like he's pulling out the Jordan Peterson voice just a little bit.
See how broken of a premise this is? He nearly gets nothing right about gender or sex, to the level where responding to it is almost impossible.
Okay, can we pinpoint which part of the statement did he address?
I don't know.
Kev, he addressed everything in a non-coherent way, and I've been just trying to figure out through simple snippets what they could mean on an individual out-of-context level. This man has not said anything in a coherent way this entire video, and I am mostly disappointed this is not about Steven Universe.
I will say, this person's name, as I recall, is HidingInPrivate.
Mm-hmm.
Not like we're not going to watch this, but I do actually genuinely really recommend his In Defense of Pikmin 2 video. It is very good. And most importantly, that video is like a total 180 of what I expected him to do.
Look, it's very common for these like video game essayists who do like Pokemon. Who's that guy? Dylan? No, wasn't
Mulvaney.
No, not Dylan Mulvaney. There's like a YouTube guy who would do like Pokemon tournaments on YouTube, and then one day he just started doing political stuff, especially about gender, like getting in arguments about gender. And it was a total 180 from his content, and so everyone started unsubscribing.
Well, it's not even just like, oh, this content is like such a shift. No, I mean like his argumentation here.
Oh, okay.
Like, his level of like actually citing sources for stuff, putting things on screen, like actually being coherent. Total 180 to his Pikmin 2 video, which I remind you came out, if I remember correctly, 2 weeks before this one.
Huh. Well, that's a puzzle.
I was going to say, at least I give everyone a pass in 2016 for losing their minds and doing that.
Yeah.
Same
But no, this is
but
both of those videos, including this one, is current fucking year.
yeah, I
Amazing.
just like middle mouse clicked on it just to see, and no, it was like a week ago. Like, okay,
This is a fresh
Never
video,
mind.
hot off the presses.
damn.
This video
It's similar
was
to
8
trying
days
to
ago.
answer a question like, did you know trees don't exist? Saying
Did
yes
you know?
or saying no.
Did you know that birds aren't real?
Okay.
Yeah, the CIA plant. We all know it.
Yeah.
Okay, so really quickly, I was wrong. The Pikmin video was 2 months ago.
Okay, 2 months.
Continue.
Still fairly close.
Yeah,
In terms of
this
like
is this
video
is a
development,
very
because it usually takes, in my case, several months to process a video. Anyway.
Is accepting the premise that trees don't exist, which is false. It's a question that's premises are so fundamentally broken that it literally can't be engaged with as
I could engage it. I could actually do a very strong steel man refuting this. Because you just have to break it into parts. Like, gender is not your biological sex. Okay, start there.
I mean, if you live in the desert, trees aren't real to you either.
What your brain believes is your sex. Like, I would even dispute that part. And I don't think he really talked about that word believes, which I think is a real, like, it throws off the whole statement. Our brains are biological. He agreed with that. How could one's mental state be separate from one's biology? I think that's the only part he kind of addressed.
curious.
With like theoretical genetic variation. That was the argument. But
there's a better way to refute this claim. And we didn't see it.
a straightforward answer. He's literally so wrong he didn't even formulate the question right. And, as I mentioned before, since it has been like, 10 minutes or something, this is based on a quote of Rebecca essentially saying that they want to break down rigid gender roles. So like, let the girl play with the truck. It's not some heinous, crazy idea. Finally, let's get into his John Money spiel, and just try to keep in mind everything that you just learned here, and see how confidently he
You're gonna
asserts his hateful and
slam
ignorant
this
mind.
right in the last 7 minutes of this video?
I mean, it's an 18-minute video.
Isn't John Money the WWE owner?
But you know what? We might want to... What, do you guys want to continue with the John Money thing and I take off, or what do we want to do?
Sure.
All
You
right.
can leave us.
Well, I'll bid you adieu.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
This was a
Baguettes to you
terrible
too.
video.
I'm
and this
sorry.
is a terrible episode so far. You all should be ashamed of yourselves.
Cool.
Oh,
I
I am always. I'm ashamed of
Luigi,
you.
keep fighting them.
I will do my best.
I'm sorry.
My
you
brother in
weren't able
arms.
I'm sorry you weren't able to be here for the whole thing, Daniel.
Oh, that's fine. I'll watch it in post. You guys have a wonderful time watching this terrible video.
All right. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Time to argue about John Money. I have some things to say about John Money.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
Okay, but
While
like
trying to
this is
loosely
bothering
frame
me.
Rebecca
Doesn't
as
the
a pedophile.
WWE manager also like? Isn't he like also named like John Money or something?
mean,
No, it's Vince McMahon.
Oh, Vince McMahon. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna crack open a cold one.
Oh, beers? What?
You have a whiskey. Dan's out. Time to get drunk.
I mean, I already finished 2 pints.
Good.
Word.
I don't feel like drinking tonight. I am sorry.
Then
do
I will
have
drink
some
for the
gin
both of
left,
No
us.
one's forcing you to. We're just gonna call you gay if you
You're
don't.
right. I am forcing myself to not drink.
Wow, what are you, lame?
Homosexual. Can't take
But
all the
I'm the
booze.
gayest straight furry you know.
Okay, we ready?
Yeah.
Let's
Propose.
go.
The file.
But John Money thought differently. He thought if, say, a boy were socialized enough to be a girl, that boy could fundamentally be a girl. That is to say, he thought there were no innate differences between males and females. Contrary to the entire field of biology. Now, John Money was unable to get anybody to take his gender pet project seriously until a boy by the name of David Reimer came along. Upon birth, David lost his willy during the penile mutilation ritual, and so Money found the perfect opportunity to swoop in and perform a bout of human experimentation. He had the infant boy's testicles lopped off, and then had the parents raise David to be a girl while undergoing hormone treatments. Furthermore, he had David, as a young child, imitate sex acts with his twin brother to normalize David as a bottom. Money even had the brothers undress and engage in genital inspections, which he took a photograph of on at least one occasion. Money described the experiments as successful, though David never ended up identifying as a woman and described his visits with Money as traumatic. But whatever, close enough. Except that in adulthood, David's brother killed himself by ODing on antidepressants, and David later shot himself in the head with a sawed-off shotgun.
You're always going to see people that are going to say, well, the Dave Reimer case could have been successful. I'm living proof.
To this day, there isn't a single shred of evidence supporting the existence of gender, in humans, or the rest of the animal kingdom for that matter. So remember, kids, when you use the term gender, you're using the unproven terminology of a mad scientist who happily committed human experimentation, tortured a pair of twin boys, and drove them both to suicide, and got away with it. But I'm sure there's nobody else who would want to experiment on children with such a thing.
John Money is despicable.
So let's stop there. I don't like that framing at all.
Oh, that was ER's video.
That was
that was
ER's
video.
And I didn't like it.
I mean, if anything, John Money proved that being transgender is not something that can be induced by social factors.
Not in everyone, no. Well, he's gonna kind of pose his argument against the John Money section here. Do we have anything else to say about the ER section before we just dive into there?
Well, you sound very interested in complaining about it, so I'm curious, actually.
I just think John Money is a cool name.
It is cool, but it's not cool for like a sexologist. It would be cool if you're an investor or something. You call a 1-800 number and he tells you how to become a millionaire fast. I would trust that guy.
I will say I've never heard of that argument before of John Money. That because John Money invented the term gender, the word gender is bad and you should not use it.
It's fake and gay.
Yeah. I actually heard that a lot. A lot of conservatives use that argument. Steven Crowder used it a lot.
Yeah, I've heard that argument a lot, and I think it's stupid. So we can get into that.
It deserves to be laughed out of the room.
And you won't find a single professional researching today who believes in what he did or thought it was okay. It is also not the belief that there is no biological differences between the sexes. And as I explained already, the biological difference between...
See, Money's claim gender has no biological aspect. Current research has predictive biological signatures. Okay.
Between the sexes is on a large bimodal distribution that has infinite variations. So, while John Money was wrong, him being wrong in his experiment actually lends more credibility to current conceptions of transness and all of the information and factual evidence that we have. Using the sort of out-of-date terminology of male brain in a female body for simplicity's sake, what happened to David? He was born male, assumably would have been a regular cis kid, but instead he was raised in a female body and socialization. So even if he never lived life as a male, his biology was still male, and he wasn't trans. He was now a male brain in a female body, and despite not knowing, his still male cis brain gave him body dysphoria about his gender and body. If people really could trans your kids, or you could create more trans people through socialization, then we would have expected John Money to have been right.
So I want to break down, because there's a couple things to kind of process there. Mm-hmm. I would not say that Reimer had a female body. I think
I thought that was
not
whole
quite
point.
right. He
was put on estrogen.
He's put on
since
estrogen,
he was a child.
but estrogen does not make your body female. Estrogen is a product of a female body, but exogenous hormones don't make a body into a female body. So that's like the first part. I agree that there's some evidence here of something some kind of sense of sex. I don't quite know what it means though, because I'm torn on this, right? Because there's something there. He obviously knew something was wrong with the way he was raised. He was like, okay, this does not fit. However, I think probably the way that David understood and figured out that things were not right was through socialization. Because even though his parents, quote unquote, raised him as a girl and told him he was a girl, his masculine behavior patterns would have already, they're just innate. They're part of the male brain, right? So that part seems true. And then by interacting with other kids, you can imagine a boy trying to make friends with girls is just going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
Especially if they think you're like a weird girl. Like it's a very bad mix of girls who think you're like a weirdo and boys who think you're a girl and so they treat you differently. And it puts you in a very bad social position.
Yeah.
And so behaviorally, you're going to be like, I really prefer stereotypically guy stuff versus girl stuff. Which leads me to believe if you forcibly reassigned a very effeminate male as a child, I don't know that they would pick up on it. I think they might grow up and never know.
Another aspect to this too, where he brings up the concept of like, people aren't trying to, or like people can't trans your kids, and I'm just kind of like, okay, why bring up this argument? That's not even a claim that like ER made. In fact, the whole point of that screed in his video there is just to point out that like the concept of gender was created by a madman. That was the whole point of that like little like ER bit.
I think all he's trying to say is that the only thing that this experiment showed is that you can't trans children.
I think I do think you could, but you couldn't do it with a typical male. Because a typical male is going to act male, they're going to do male things, and they're not going to fit in with girls, and they're going to play well with other boys.
So yeah, you could probably trans a trans child.
I think no. I think you could trans a gay child. For sure.
Yeah, I think that
I'm not sure about that.
Well,
how would they know? Like, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, how do you know?
Well, I mean, I know that okay. I feel, but like it feels like I know that my body is not correct, and that like my genitals are not supposed to be there, and I'm guessing it would be the same for like a gay person.
I think the counter to that is we do have examples of people who are born with, say, genetic disorders that are invisible, right? And they don't know that their sex is actually different. Or they don't realize that there's something different about their sexual development. And you even have like women who are exposed to lots of testosterone in the womb, and they're born with like these weird developmental things that keep them from ever having children, among other things. They make them very masculine, but these women don't develop gender dysphoria. They mostly develop without that. So I think we do have examples of people who have brains that should, in theory, conflict with their body, but they don't experience dysphoria, which tells me that dysphoria is like, it has
more psychological.
It has to happen under certain conditions, but it's not just a mismatch. There has to be either a mismatch plus some other thing going on, or maybe no mismatch, but there's some other psychological problem that's disrupting a person's ability to accept their body.
So I just know that there's definitely a correlation with autism and transgenderism, and I do have autism.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise, like my first like me thinking I was trans thing was like when I was 4-ish. And that's basically the first time you remember things. So I don't really see like what weird thing could have happened to me between my birth and being 4 years old that would like so drastically change my psychology for the rest of my life. Unless I was like fucking raped or something and I don't know about it.
So for you, I mean, it's hard to know. The only theories that get kind of thrown around are like the environment in the womb kind of thing. It could be genetic, though we don't really have any evidence of what genes would do that. So that's kind of a non-starter right now. So it's just, we don't know. Though I imagine that Dave and Remmer, I am guessing he didn't really start experiencing dysphoria until he started playing with other kids. That is my guess. He probably experienced some problems at home because he was acting in a very boyish way and the parents were like correcting it. Right? I think that could have a big effect. Is if you have a certain behavior and you're getting squashed. That could have a psychological impact. But I don't know. I don't know in cases of like very long going, early onset gender dysphoria. It's still a mystery. But I think you can, there are probably multiple situations in which gender dysphoria can arise for different reasons.
But he wasn't. He substantiated by total accident that if you put a male brain in a female body and socialize them as women, they will reject the concept and be unlikely to ever accept it. This...
Oh, my other theory is if you raised Remmer as a girl, but with no gender expectations, I'm curious what would have happened then. Because, you know, like sexuality.
Wait, are you suggesting, Kev, that he raised David as a baby?
If they raised David as a butch lesbian, what would have happened? I'm really curious. And we will never know, right? It's impossible to know.
Exactly.
I'm guessing there probably would still be problems, but maybe less. I don't know.
This is kind of why, like, I brought up like the whole thing about like my belief about the brain and like the sum total that it is from like different influencing factors, because even in something like homosexuality, I feel like we pretty definitively proven there's no such thing as a gay gene.
It's very low in genetic contribution.
Yeah.
There's
a biological disposition, but like
from what Daniel told me, there are multiple gay genes. There is like different things that make you interpret the pheromones differently. There are genes that make you more attracted to specific like phenotypes in people, and there's basically a combination of these.
There are a combination
genetic differences
of genes,
in gay people,
but when you calculate how much they contribute to sexuality, it's not the majority. It's something like 10-20%. And the rest is like well, they're not totally sure, but probably environment in the womb.
Yeah. And it's
and brain structure as a consequence.
See, that's the one thing I'm betting my money on, is that it's got to be a brain chemistry thing, because the more I look into it, the more it's like, wow, this is like really both and also neither.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Like anything that's behavioral is going to be multifaceted, because behaviors are not on-off switches in our brain. They're actually a whole bunch of things interacting.
Well, that's the other part of this too. That's why I'm betting my money on with like a lot of like the trans stuff and whatnot and gender dysphoria. it's gotta be like a brain chemistry thing. That's my thought. I could be wrong. I'm not despite my love of psychology, I am a pop psychologist.
Yeah.
I'm not trained. I'm not like studied. I'm not this. I'm not that. I just really appreciate the field.
Mm. And when he said like it's either both or nothing, that is a very applicable thing for psychology in general. A lot of times it is everything culminating into this single pattern of behavior. And what I was trying to say though about, in particular about the gauging and stuff, it goes back to what Animal was saying before about, even though we have like chromosomes or things like this, all those like little parts of our DNA and our biology and our genetic makeup, like yes, they may have a small effect on who we are, but it is more of like the foundation for which we are set on. Whatever we build on top of that is built off of our nature, our societal pressures, the experiences that we have, and those sorts of things can have a equal or even greater impact on deciding who we are, whether and how those genes come into play.
Complicated.
It's always complicated. It's fucking psychology.
It's complicated.
Tenny, say it's complicated.
It's complicated.
Luigi, is it complicated? Do you agree?
It is very much complicated.
Excellent. We all agree. All right, let's see if we can finish this video.
This is what we see with trans people. They feel the same way that David did, in simple terms. Except they didn't get this way from child surgery misplacing them, but a society and political faction attempting to limit the healthcare that would otherwise allow their body's physiology to align with their brains. The fact that he thinks this in any way is even approaching an argument about gender shows an embarrassing lack of even the most basic ideas on the subject, and shows when it comes to media or science or anything about the natural world, his ideology will always supersede factual information, even when his own point is disproving what he's trying to say. And their very innocuous statement of wanting to tear down and play with the semiotics of gender in cartoons for children. The semiotics, again, being the signifiers, the things that we associate with the general ideas of gender. So, boy like truck, girl like doll. Rebecca wants to break down those barriers. And now they're being called a for it. A handful of people have responded to my last two videos.
No, they were being called a pedophile because they drew porn of Ed, Edd and Eddy.
No,
Yeah,
they were being
say.
well. They were being. It was like a weird. Gender was invented by a pedophile, and this person's also a pedophile. It was like a weird.
No. I've seen the full ER video. That's not like.
That's not it.
That's not the claim.
Okay.
He does bring up the Ed, Edd and Eddy porn in that video. The claim there with the John Money thing is that this person is also deranged.
Yeah. He's more. I feel like that's more of a critique of the ideology of SJW, which.
Yes.
Okay.
Look, like ER.
I'll take your word for it. I haven't seen the ER video in total.
Look,
so.
I don't want to like totally like stand for ER here because like he does have a lot of things that in retrospect I look back at and I'm like,
he is pretty problematic.
So I hate that word. That is actually accurate here.
He is indeed problematic.
So
I think we're just in the outro now because he just starts saying.
I hope to God.
I think it's just him saying, yeah, people didn't like my other videos about Steven Universe, so here's a video about not Steven Universe.
Videos, but mainly just people quote retweeting on Twitter of why I'm still hung up on these videos. I first watched Steven Universe less than a year ago, and I didn't watch it primarily because of these videos that I've been covering. I lightheartedly made fun of the show for years, and I believed many of the lies in the videos about the creators. Ignorantly so. Why does it not make sense to debunk videos that quite literally get parroted by openly bigoted brainlets to this day? Literally just search Steven Universe fans, and as recent as a week or less ago, people are still repeating the lies popularized in these videos. It's embarrassing. I mean, if people are allowed to unabashedly lie through their teeth for 8 years without relenting, why can't a single video exist setting the record straight? Why is it cope to have one person come out and go, hey, they're actually saying wrong, incorrect things. You can prove they're wrong. They're just lying.
Because you do a terrible job at proving it.
Yes.
Wow, we haven't seen their, well, we saw this video. We did not watch the 3-hour
but like
Lily Orchard.
now...
That's next on the docket, Luigi, I promise.
Oh, God.
Finally, finally I can talk about Steven Universe.
I'll send you the video, and we can prep. We can do a special.
Wait, are you doing the Lily Orchard is wrong about Steven Universe one?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Oh, God. Okay.
Next up on 3,
that one is before this one. That's before this one.
Is that before or after my video?
For that one, we will be strapping Danimal down with duct tape, so he has to sit through all 3 hours. It might become like a 12-hour stream. That's generous. It might be longer than that. But, yep.
Oh, and then those people will be like, oh, you haven't let it go yet? That doesn't make any sense. People will act like it's time to let it go and move on, but they're fronting because they don't want the discourse to evolve. They don't want people to have a loud enough voice that actually dispels the lies that these videos have spread. The biggest of the lies, in my opinion, of course, being the transphobic stuff that I reiterated and debunked here, that is virtually nothing to even do with the show anyways.
You think? Probably should have just not done a Steven Universe video and just made it about gender. Don't even have the veneer.
Yeah, here's another thing too.
Trick people into watching your video.
He's like, oh, why
do with Steven Universe?
Steven Universe is my favorite gender.
I just want to.
It is a gender. I'll agree with you there. It is a gender. It's the kind I'll beat up.
He brought up, he's like, oh, like, people are like, oh, why, you're still not letting it go, like, why aren't you, it's because, like, how long ago did the show end? Like, it's left public discourse at this point. And yeah, like, people are, like, yeah, like, oh, well, people are still parroting wrong things. It's like, yeah, because, like, their mindset about the show has already been made up, and they're not gonna watch it, even if they are wrong, which I still hold out. You've done a really piss poor job, in this video at least, proving that to be the case.
I think it's fine to make videos about discourse that's 8 years long. I don't know.
It is.
I think it's fine. And I think
it's not.
Most people complaining about it are probably just complaining because they don't like the opinions. And they should just do that instead of saying, why do you care so much? They should just say, hey, this wasn't very good. And maybe detailed why if they felt the need to give some feedback.
The other thing too is that, like, if you wanted to truly defend Steven Universe, I would have, instead of doing like a response video to a very small part of another person's YouTube video, I instead would have collected all of the common arguments and stuff that you hear about Steven Universe and then try to like respond to those.
But they already did that in the 3-hour Lily Orchard response video, right? That you didn't watch all the way through, which is why we're gonna watch it right now.
No, we're not.
I'm pretty sure.
But if you enjoyed that segment about gender and want to see more of my work, please see the more thorough breakdown of the other 2 much longer videos.
Okay. Oh, there's another one.
I did not know there was a second one. Hold on.
2 3-hour videos. Luigi, your weekend is ready.
Oh my god, he made the one in between 2 of the Pikmin videos.
To quote Ray, oh goody gumdrops.
In defense of Steven Universe.
I mean, I am known for being great at defending my media bias. I mean, like how I defended the Rings of Power, which I thought was decent, a 7 out of 10.
I just want to. I'm just gonna. I want to quickly.
3-hour videos defending Steven fucking Universe.
Well, Steven Universe is a really long show, and there's a lot of misinformation and bad takes
I'm
going
going to kill myself.
Tony, don't worry. I'm syncing it up for you right now.
I just want to quickly put it to bed right now. I want to get this out there. Like I want to get ahead of the criticism of the idea that I have never watched Steven Universe. I have watched 3 episodes of Steven Universe. I have watched pretty much all of the clips pertaining to all like the secret, like building story in Steven Universe, and I saw the like direct ending of Steven Universe, and I can comfortably say it is not a show for me.
I've watched everything about Steven Universe.
Luigi tied me to a bed and forced me to watch the first. How many episodes was it, Luigi?
I think we watched up to like 20 episodes, and I made you rank them on how you like them and who your favorite characters were.
Yeah, it's all a blur now, but yeah, that sounds about right. I will say it was a children's show. And
I will say I hate Steven. Like I can't stand
I didn't find
him.
Steven very appealing either. He's just kind
Oh,
of
Steven gets a lot better later.
That's what they all say. That's what they
I don't
all
like
say.
post game Steven either, though. I really don't like him in the beginning, but I'll give you this. I guess I dislike him less at the end of the series than I do at the beginning.
Are you talking about Steven Universe Future or Steven Universe at the end of the original show?
Of the original show.
Steven Universe Revolution, Steven Universe 360.
Steven at the end of the original show was the most likable that he was ever in the entire show, probably.
Steven Universe Revengeance.
Steven Universe Unleashed.
Again, Luigi, that's probably true, but that still wasn't enough to make me like him.
You just missed all the character building, probably.
Quick, someone give me Kingdom Hearts references. I want to throw those in there too.
Sora, Cloud.
No, I need names. Names
Sephiroth.
It's like Tears of something.
Darkness.
Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah.
Darkness.
Birth by Sleep.
Aqua got Norded.
Aqua got Norded. Are we gonna do a Kingdom Hearts episode soon? If we do a Kingdom Hearts
I'm down
episode,
for Steven. I'm down for Kingdom Hearts.
Then I can probably rope Naira.
I will not join you for.
I have made it my one of my goals to like avoid anything to do with Kingdom Hearts. Never played a game, none of it, because like they're spread out across 3 or 4 different consoles, and I don't have the money for that.
If you, well, Tenny,
har.
No. I could go even one step better there. Emulation is not illegal. Just saying.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know how to emulate. I don't know. I don't even have an antivirus, so I can't pirate safely.
Look, with the
you'll be okay.
With the new Unity policy, it is morally correct to pirate games.
Yeah.
look, Teddy. You don't need to be a good pirate. You just need to know a good pirate. And I am somewhat of a Jack Sparrow myself.
There you go. Just ask Ray. He'll get you all the Kingdom Hearts games. But you don't have to.
By the way, no, I have never pirated in my life. I'm definitely
Ray,
being a pirate. I'm always above board with the way that I obtain my video games.
First of all, Ray respects copyright and the law of this land.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I make sure to always buy my Switch games and then dump them onto my computer using my actual physical copies. Because suck me, Nintendo, it's not illegal.
Good deal. All right, well, I think we're at the end here of this roller coaster ride. We actually finished a video for once. That's pretty impressive.
There's like 1 minute left, but I'm almost certain that's like all still nothing.
It's
we don't
just
need to
wrap up stuff.
We don't need to fucking watch them shill their fucking videos. It's fine.
Yeah, I will throw a link to their channel, obviously, in the description, so people can check out their videos.
Okay, yeah. I just checked. The last minute is all like the credits of his like Patreons.
Man, I want a Patreon. Do you think I could get a Patreon if I make videos about children's media?
It's free.
Give me the money.
If you make
Look,
a
you
channel
give
about
me
children's media, please invite me because I love watching children's media.
Because you're a
what
child.
you have to do is just like
No,
film
I just
yourself
like the media.
just film yourself saying, "Give me money. You
Money
give
me.
me the money."
Me need money.
Good.
Money me.
Money me. Money now.
Money now.
Me a money needing a lot now.
Okay, I think we're gonna wrap it up. That's almost 3 hours of footage right there that I can comb through.
Yeah, we'll do it.
It's gonna end up an hour long.
It'll do.
That'll do, pig.
Let's wrap that up for here. Everybody, say goodbye. Thanks for coming. Thanks for staying as long as you did. No thanks to Danimal for wussing out.
He came early and left a mess.
Yeah. But have a good night, everybody. Say goodbye, boys.
Goodbye,
boys. Goodbye, boys.
See you later. Maybe.